Cottrell, and I am doing this live stream and recording on January 5th. There's a lot to go over in the news. We have the Cybertruck issue, we have the attack during New Year's in New Orleans. There's Trump being sentenced on January 10th. I have this kind of concept for 2025, and that is as the years go by, each year seems to have more and more history packed into it. I feel, and maybe I'll be wrong here, but I feel that 2025 is going to be packed with 10 years of history. So if you look back on 10 years of history, and I guess it depends on where your starting point is, but as a baseline, but 10 years of history packed in to 1 year. And that's what I feel 2025 will be. That means that there's going to be a lot of events that are happening. Some of it's going to be fast-paced, and then some of it is going to be like slow-moving train that ends up having a very high-impact event. All right, but just look at what happened during New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Lots was happening. Not just the change of the new year, but all these terrorist attacks and stuff. So you can sense that there is this buildup of energy within 2025. So this is a big reason why I've been doing the telemetry shows and how this parlays with financial markets, how it will parlay with international affairs and domestic policy. It's going to be pretty profound. So, just keep that in mind. That's the kind of the mindset that I have right now for 2025. In addition, there are cases, pathogenic cases in different countries, especially in the United States, where cases are going up. And now we're talking about the RSV, SARS-CoV-2, and now there's this human MPV. I did 2 shows on this, so please refer to that so you understand a little bit more about the virology and the genomics of that pathogen, the HMPV. So I'm not going to focus this show on that, but cases are going up, just like I said in late November and early December. I said December numbers will come in more than prior months. The data suggests that total cases for the year will be less than last year. All right. Also, since Thanksgiving in the United States, there has been an uptick of cases. Now, what is interesting is there's elevated cases in states that are somewhat in the Midwest and in Middle America. So that's concerning. All right, you're talking about lower population densities. So then you also have this issue with bird flu. So these cases are starting to increase. I'm not so worried about the bird flu yet, but I gave the reason why, and what you need to worry about if certain things start to happen. So just refer to those videos. That's not the intent of this video, okay? The intent of this video is to go over some of the other news that was transpiring the last few days, all right? So before we do that, please help support my work by sharing the links, following the channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. I do get strikes on YouTube, so it's kind of whack-a-mole, all right? So it's important that you follow me on all of the 7 channels. 4 channels on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. All the links are in the description of this video. So just go to the description section of the videos, click the links, subscribe. Share the links. Follow me on X. I have 2 channels on X, and I also have a channel on GETTR. Follow me there. You'll get notifications. That'll get around the notification issue. Some people are getting notifications from YouTube one day after I actually do a premiere. So it's, that's another way to get informed. I also have a WhatsApp link where you can click that and you'll join the WhatsApp group that I've created. So you can get a feed. That's also a way that I get around the censorship. Now, another way to help support my work is ask your social media to follow me. As you know, I've been saying every time I do a video, I post a video on YouTube, I do lose subscribers, right? Meanwhile, I'm gaining subscribers on other channels that are not YouTube. But the whole point here is to reach a larger audience so I can inform the public on what they need to do with their finances, with their health, and my take on international affairs. All right? Most of my videos, thousands of videos, the far majority of my videos are for free. All right? I do some medical lectures that are a module that you can purchase for $50. But the other stuff is free. All right? So I have thousands of videos for free that informs you about news and about health. So help support that work by donating. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. And you can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee on my homepage. It's down at the bottom of the homepage. You can also be a paid member to Patreon. That's another way to help support my work. All right. Again, I offer thousands of videos for free. You can get free podcasts on Apple Podcasts. Link is in the description of this video. You can also listen to those podcasts on Podomatic for free. You can listen to the audio version of my podcast on my website under Broadcast Radio. And then you can also watch the live feeds on my website for free under Broadcast Live. So there's lots of ways to get engaged. The whole idea here is this is interactive. So I'm going to open up X spaces for call-in. So, for the ones that like to talk, like to ask questions, like to, give me your opinion about what's going on with the information that we're covering in this video, it's supposed to be interactive. Please participate. So that's a great way to do it. So I appreciate all the support in whatever way you do it. And also, a great way to support your health and support the work I do is to purchase the products that I have on my store. So with that said, I want to start with Fox Business talking about the FBI statement, reflection of indoctrination.
Let's bring in Hoover Institution's senior fellow, Victor Davis Hanson. Victor, let's start with this. If people listen to Joe Biden the last 4 years, this is the greatest threat to the American people. Wait, listen to this.
White supremacy was
Wait, listen to this
Okay.
real quick. Just listen.
According to the intelligence community, terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists.
According to the United States intelligence community, domestic terrorism from white supremacists.
That was the Democratic play to demonize Republicans, demonize the MAGA movement, demonize individuals that are wanting to have our constitutional freedoms. They just want to create, now again, this speech that he did was on October 2021, all right? But there was this demonization of the conservative movement. And a big part of that conservative movement is white male, white female, but it's not the only. I mean, there are many minorities within the conservative movement, all right? But the thing is that they want to demonize. So this October 2021, A lot has happened since then, all right? We went through the whole DEI issue within the government, within elite institutions like Harvard, UPenn, MIT, remember that over in Congress? You know, we had, there was this drumming up of unrest that was kind of like a BLM slash Antifa unrest on campuses dealing with the Israeli-Hamas war. There's a push for this kind of hardcore socialism on campus. That's who he's placating to. It's the white nationalists. It's the right wing. It's the, So they were trying to demonize people all the way up to the November 2024 election. That was their playbook. It didn't work. And so what's happening is Briggs, was it Briggs? Yeah. I always forget if it's Braggs or Briggs. Braggs, I think it is. Braggs is now pushing for a sentencing for Trump for January 10th. Right? So now there's more interference with the incoming president-elect. Now, will the sentencing be that big of a deal? Probably not. Probably not. I don't see them, imprisoning Donald Trump. I don't think that's going to happen. But it's a way to demonize him in the political sphere to say he's officially a convicted felon. All right? So it's just to demonize MAGA, it's to demonize Trump, it's to demonize his administration for little brains, for people that are little brained. He's placating to the little brains. Just like how the district attorney in New York is playing to the little brains. Trying to demonize, trying to circumvent, rule of law and process. And so what's going to happen is Trump's going to have to push. So he gets sentenced on January 10th. He'll appeal. That will probably go for, I don't know, a year, right? It'll be all in the time, it'll be big news, trying to trip up Trump and the things that he needs to do for his administration. Then the first 2 years are extremely important if he's going to do anything substantial in his second term. So they're trying to trip him up. All right? So you got 1 year of appeal, maybe longer. It'll demonize the Republicans. It'll demonize the conservative movement because he's a convicted felon now. And, for paying porn stars. All right? And as a legal expense. All right? And then, so they demonize him, trip him up. It's all over the news. And then now you're going into the midterm elections. See, the Democratic Party, they do have a playbook. It's all about smear, 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 smear. Not make the country better. Not make the country more prosperous. I mean, look at what just happened. Maybe we'll find a video on it. Look at what just happened with all of the presidential medals. Why? I could be wrong on this, but I do not remember ever a president that's leaving office issue so many pointless presidential medals to people like Magic Johnson. Why? Hillary Clinton. Why? Bono. Why? I could understand Michael J. Fox. He doesn't have too much time left on this earth, and he's suffering from Parkinson's, and he's been trying to do a lot for Parkinson's research. Parkinson's, the disease, where you have gait issues, and he has a pretty severe case of it. So he's tied into the whole trying to get more research funding for that. So I could see that, but you don't You know, I don't know how many people he awarded, Biden awarded. I mean, what, 15? I don't remember it ever being like that. Now, I could be wrong. I could have been busy doing other things and never noticed. But why? Let's focus on like some real big stuff and not some of the frivolous stuff. All right, let's continue. We're only 42 seconds into this.
Is the most lethal terrorist threat in the homeland.
The most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Adding to that, the speech he gave in 2023 after the Hamas terror attack, murdering women, children, and families, he mentioned Islamophobia more times than anti-Semitism. That's Joe Biden.
Well, there's never any data to back any of that up. We know from federal crime statistics that the greatest targets of hate crimes are Jewish Americans. They only comprise 2% of the population, and they're 50% of the victims. And the perpetrators are not what he says, whites. They're underrepresented in hate crimes, to take that example. But blacks, people of color, for whatever reason, are overrepresented demographically. So there's no empirical.
Now think about this. There's about 14% black people in the United States. All right, depending on the census you're looking at, it's anywhere from 14 to 16%. The far majority of the crime is black on black. All right, or black on some other race. Those are, and they're only 60. Let's say you give them the largest population range, 16%. But the numbers that I've been seeing is closer to 14%. So 16% of the population black, but the majority of the cases, crime, are black crime. Why is that? And that's definitely the case in New York.
Data to back that up, other than he's pandering to his base. And the same thing about, if you look at the data of crimes in the context of terrorism, who perpetrates terrorism, it's not white supremacists. They don't rank anywhere near Islamic radicals. I mean, after all, this started with 3,000 people killed by Islamic radicals on 9/11. Where's he been?
Victor, I want to bring the FBI into this as well. What do you make of the fact that the assistant special agent down in Louisiana was unwilling to call this right away without any data to suggest otherwise, unwilling to call it terrorism? That didn't seem like an accident to me.
Yeah, I mean, she should have just suspended all judgment until she tends to make a reasonable conjecture, but she couldn't do that, and that's a reflection of her indoctrination. This DEI idea that it's okay to call people white supremacists as terrorists, but you don't dare touch a protected category like...
Exactly. The whole issue with the Democratic Party is they placate to these different minority, sub-minority, different categories. But they'll knee-jerk and blame the white supremacist, the white nationalist, the white dude that likes his Constitution and American flag. They'll demonize them lickety-split. But heaven forbid you actually say that some sort of Islamic jihad just happened in New Orleans. Oh my God, we can't do that. We gotta be balanced and fair.
Muslims, it's just embarrassing, and everybody knew it. And what it's going to do, it's going to fuel the momentum to have confirmed Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, but especially Kash Patel. People are sick of this, and they want somebody in there to bring back these agencies to their former disinterested positions, and I think they will. They'll get confirmed because of things like this very quickly.
Because the whole DEI movement is really just about a political power grab, Victor. It is, they shame, humiliate, denigrate, because if you cower, they control. Exactly. That is the entire equation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the same Same issue with the whole kneel, right? Kneeling at the stadiums during the whole BLM, fiasco. Then you had people, you gotta kneel when there's a national anthem. You gotta kneel. You gotta kneel. You gotta submit. That was a big mechanism that the BLM movement was using. And a lot of libtards that were white bought into it. Stupid. Stupid. All right? Then you have people that are just demonizing God, country, and family. Again, the three major pillars that makes a society productive and moral. If you have spirituality or some sort of sense of connection to the divine, that's important. But you have a Democratic Party that wants to demonize that. Strong sense of family creation and a family unit, that's the bedrock of society. If you don't have family creation and a strong family unit, you don't have a strong country. That is the bedrock right there. Well, you have the Democratic Party that wants to have never-ending abortions. You have the Democratic Party that wants to redefine words in terms of phenotypes and karyotypes. They want to redefine who a person is, either male or female. They want to push gender dysphoria. They want to push gender reassignment. They want to destroy the family unit. And when it comes to country, they want to demonize people that are service members. They're demonizing the flag. They're demonizing the national anthem. They don't have respect. We'll parlay this into President Carter's funeral in another video. But President Carter was not a good president, but he was a president. And so every American citizen should respect the service that President Carter provided. He provided two services. He provided being president, but also he was a service member in the Navy. Now, I didn't agree with his policies in the 70s. I remember them very well. But that doesn't mean that I would disrespect him in his service to country through the presidency or through his service to the Navy. All right? So Americans need to kind of step back and go, okay, we had an ex-president that passed away. You may agree with his policies or disagree. I disagree. But the thing is that you should respect the office of the presidency. You can disagree with the person, but you honor the office of the presidency. And that's how we have God, country, and family. That's how you have a productive society. But the Democrats and some Republicans are having a problem with it in terms of country. Let me give you an example. There's Nassau County in Long Island. It's not lowering the flag, half-staff, to honor President Carter. That's wrong. First of all, it's against flag ordinance. If an ex-president passes away, it should, all public buildings and government buildings are half-staff for 30 days. Why? That's to honor the office of the presidency. But when you have a society fractured and not following code, not following flag code law, right? Then you're disrespecting the office of the presidency. I don't like Joe Biden at all. At all. I think he's one of the worst presidents we've had in modern history. For my lifetime, he's the worst. The second worst was Carter. But that doesn't mean that I disrespect the office of the presidency. No American should disrespect the office of the presidency. This is how we get to God, country, and family. This is how you have a moral society through spirituality, have an affinity for country with the respect of its institutions, even though you can disagree with the ones that are leading those institutions. That's the wonderful thing about our democracy, or constitutional republic. And understanding that family and a healthy family unit is the bedrock of society. Democrats have a hard time understanding this. So what has happened is you have people giddy, as Trump stated, about bringing the flag half-staff in remembrance of an ex-president, President Carter in this case, during the inauguration of Donald J. Trump. Because Donald J. Trump will be inaugurated on January 20th. The flag staff, half-staff, will be throughout the whole month of January, because it's 30 days. So you have you have evil anti-Trumpers, right, that are mostly tied to the Democratic Party. That could be tied to the Green Party or some other party, but mostly Democrats. But you have these hateful people that are cheering for a half-staff in the background during the inauguration of Donald J. Trump. Wrong. This is wrong thinking. The half-staff isn't to demonize Trump. The half-staff is to respect the office of the presidency because a past president passed away. So now you have a county that is pro-Trump that's not willing to bring down the flag to half-staff because of this giddy aspect to the Democratic Party. So now, because of this infighting between Republicans and Democrats, because of the half-staff flag issue for ex-President Carter, we're disrespecting the office and disrespecting, this leads to the disrespecting of God, country, and family. If you're disrespecting this little thing, you'll start disrespecting other things that are much bigger. So this is a problem. This is a problem. Again, it goes to those three pillars: God, country, and family. It's very simple. This country will be very prosperous and be blessed if we hold true to those three principles.
It is, and that's why they have all of these new techniques: swatting, deplatforming, shadow banning, cancel culture, that they use to intimidate people and deter them. And unfortunately for them, in 2024, that was rejected, and now they're in a panic. It's a pre-civilizational mindset that we judge people by their superficial appearance. The marks of civilization was supposedly content of your character, not the color of your skin.
Right.
That's so well put. I want to ask you about this, the Judge Merchan ordering Trump sentenced to be sentenced on January 10th. It's a unconditional discharge is what we're hearing is going to happen, which wouldn't carry any sort of penalties in terms of restriction of movement or anything like this, but
and we'll go into another video about this, but what it's going to do is it'll give the Democratic Party to demonize Trump through the next 2 years, try to demonize the office of the presidency, and especially the one that's going to be holding it, Donald J. Trump. They're going to try to create a hate within the electorate where during the midterm election that the Democrats try to get seats in the Senate and the House. So they're just gonna, you can see the ad right now. Why would you vote for Republican? They're full of criminals. Even though they just pay porn stars. Okay? They pay porn stars for their services as legal expense, right? I mean, think about what Bill Clinton did, all right? Bill Clinton paid way more to hide his infidelity, all right? And he wasn't prosecuted, all right? So this is their play. Their play is to demonize the Trump administration, to demonize the Republican Party, and you're just going to hear these ultra libs, these blue-haired liberals just going, he's a convicted felon now. You can't vote for J.D. Vance in 2028. You can't vote for a Republican House or Republican Senate because the leader of the free world is a porn star pair. That's their game plan. That's literally their game plan. Demonize Trump. Meanwhile, he'll appeal. He probably will win in appeal. All right. Then he's not a convicted felon, but they'll demonize him. So I've seen these people even at the Harvard Club, all right? Ultra lib, all right? And they just like, we have these question and answer sessions sometimes, you know, during these events, and there's these people that always try to demonize Trump because they have Trump derangement syndrome, all right? Totally. And and I can just see it happening. Once he gets sentenced, it's official. He's a criminal. It's official. You know, it's just, why don't they have better policies? Like lower inflation, have job creation, have a country that is safer internally, have a world that is safer, not up in flames. Stop paying Zelensky billions of dollars so he can snort up 1/10 of it. I mean, come on.
The felony on his record, that seems like a lot of spite to me. What do you make of it?
Well, it's designed to do what the Democrats tried to do in the campaign, say that Donald Trump is a convicted felon, and then they were called on it because that's not actualized until the sentencing takes place. Now it will take place in violation, by the way, of the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity. And this is nobody else would have ever been tried if he was not named Donald Trump, or if Donald Trump had just said, I'm not going to run again.
Just look at what happened with Bill Clinton. Remember Paula? I mean, you know, Bill Clinton did stuff that was way more egregious. And in business, if your lawyer is paying your porn star, all right, and he gives you an invoice, don't you think that it's an illegal expense? I mean, how would you book that? Where would you put that on the T account? All right, come on. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he wasn't hiding. I mean, like, where do you put it in the, it was a legal expense. It's all about trying to demonize him. Now, here's where the metaphysics come in with Trump. By demonizing Trump with the sentencing on January 10th, it will make him stronger. It will make him stronger. The Democratic Party thinks that by demonizing him, that you'll get people in the midterm election to swing back to the Democratic Party. As long as he is a good president in his second term, which I suspect that he will be, it will make him stronger. He's not going to like it, but it will make him stronger.
The third time, Alvin Bragg would have never brought those indictments, and everybody knows it.
So the sentencing, Victor, is next Friday. It's January the 10th. And President Trump did speak.
Literally, Alvin Bragg let murderers get away because they were black in New York, and he focused on demonizing and trying to get a conviction of Donald Trump on porn star payments. Porn star payments versus going after murderers in New York. That he let go, he didn't prosecute, he didn't have his office push black males murdering people. And he focused his office on porn star payments. And you're telling me that the judicial branch is not corrupt? It is heavily corrupt, especially in regions like New York City. Alan Bragg is an asshole. And not only is he an asshole, but he is one fat motherfucker.
Spoke to Fox News Digital, and what jumped out at me from what he said was, he said, I'm not allowed to speak about the thing because I'm still under a gag order. It's just disgraceful.
It is, and you know, the left says we don't want to engage in lawfare after we engage in it, but they have been so egregious in this one-sided distortion of the law. There's going to be a lot of popular demand that some of these people who abuse the judicial system for political purposes be held to account in the next 4 years.
All right, so I want to ask you about, you've got a piece, and I'm just dying to get your perspective on this. You're saying we've got our weakest president ever, President Biden, leaving, and the most audacious president about to take office. That seems full of possibility to me. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's a bigger dichotomy even than the failed Carter presidency and the hope of Ronald Reagan. But now all of a sudden people are not afraid anymore. They don't have to worry about being canceled, or they can say that there is not a viable third sex, or they can say that Israel had ample cause to destroy Hezbollah. They don't have to worry about all of this censorship. And there's nobody saying, don't do that, you can't do that, our best days are over, be careful. Now somebody says, do it. Try, experiment, take gambles, take risks. We're Americans. We have energy, we have food, we have all these natural resources, we have talent. There's nothing we can't do. And even the left is kind of saying, we're done for a while. We're going to go lick our wounds. Let you take over. We don't even want Joe Biden to finish this term. We won't even invoke the Logan Act like we used to. He's a de facto president. Just let us get out of this mess we created. It's very strange how they've got almost abdicated the last 3 months during this transition.
And Victor, before we go, it's just been 4 years.
They're probably running off of the ship like rats, trying to find a job because they're no longer wanted in DC. So they're on their computer and they're typing up the resume. So they don't have time to run the government like they were. They were running the government for Biden, but now they don't have time for that. They have to update their resume and send it out to a recruiter because they're out of a job on January 20th, and most likely will be hunted down by the administration for any illegal improprieties.
Blithely lying and incompetently leading. And at every turn, they could never, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and the fact that Alejandro Mayorkas is still in that job after the death and destruction at his feet, and the hardship created intentionally with an open border, just the open border, and the terror attack in New Orleans.
It goes back to what I was saying. If you don't have a strong country, if you don't control your currency, if you don't control your borders, you're not going to be a productive society. Your country will fall. So if you have the head of Homeland Security saying to the whole world, you know what? America's a smorgasbord. Come on in. We're not even going to check to see if you have legal papers. Just come on in and eat whatever you want. All you can eat buffet. That's Homeland Security right now. Now, if we have a porous border, do you think that it's opening up the door for a 9/11, another 9/11 event? Now, it might be orchestrated. Might be some lone wolves, who knows? But the thing is that the probability of another 9/11 event is escalating. Escalating for two reasons. Poor policy at the border, poor policy internally with these illegals that have come in. We have a national security state that doesn't like the Donald Trump new term. This is a recipe for another 9/11. And that is why it's so important to pay attention. Now, how that new 9/11 like event happens, I don't know. No one knows. But I do know this, in the aftermath of that new 9/11 moment, it's going to take away your civil liberties. And it's going to give more power to the national security state. That is guaranteed. Guaranteed. Trump is walking into a booby trap.
And that's exactly what the American people said.
No. It was awful gaslighting. We saw that he was mentally challenged, and yet we were said that we were cheap faking to do that. Right. We saw the border was open with our own eyes every night, and they said, no, it's secure. The only role that Mayorkas played was anybody who voted for him on the Republican side for confirmation 4 years ago will be disgraced if he votes against any of the Trump nominees. That's the only value.
I don't know. It's so crazy. All right, we're gonna play another video, but before we do, I just want to remind the audience, the ones that are watching live, and the ones that are on X Spaces, you know, you can raise your hand, do a request, ask a question, give me your opinion on whatever I'm covering right now. It's supposed to be interactive, so the ones that are watching the live stream on YouTube, you can listen and do a call in through X Spaces. Just click the link that's in the description box of this video, and go to my X page and watch or listen to the X Spaces and just do the request if you have any questions. Okay, so that's a great way for this to be interactive. This is supposed to be interactive. The whole point of the show is to be interactive, to get your opinion on things. So please make sure that you listen to the call-in on X Spaces. Okay, now what I want to do is play this is the New Orleans attacker reaction by the ex-CIA director. Yeah, of course. This is CNN.
Rare organic compound attacker. Officials are telling our John Miller that the attacker drove a car through that crowd in the early hours of New Year's Day, murdering 14 people, injuring dozens more. Used a rare organic compound not previously seen before in the United States. And officials are trying to determine exactly how the attacker may have obtained it. These are crucial new details. We have more on this coming up here in just a moment, and it comes as we are having more information coming in on the man who blew himself up in a cyber truck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Officials just releasing video of Matthew Livelsberger stopping at a charging station en route to Las Vegas. You can see him there walking.
Again, these are data points that are suggesting what I said before the election. Before the election. All right? These are data points that are suggesting that we're moving towards a 9/11 moment. You set in motion, there's some terrorism domestically that's going on. Maybe they're really American citizens and they're just been radicalized. See, they're just priming you for the big event. Now that 9/11-like event may not be on 9/11/2025. It may be in July, or maybe it'll be in June, or maybe it'll be in May, who knows? But they're priming you for it. And another data point that I find is interesting is that as the cases are starting to go up in China on NPV, as the cases norovirus going up in the UK and the United States, as the cases are starting to become a little problematic for H5N1, instead of focusing on that, we're focused on Cybertrucks blowing up in front of the Trump Tower. So they're not only diverting your attention on something that could be very problematic down the road, they're also setting in motion the plausibility of an orchestrated 9/11-like event. And I still think, Kabbalistically, Trump is going to be the 45th and the 47th president of the United States. 4 plus 5 is 9. 45, right? Is 9. 47 is 11. There is something signaling that something big is coming. I can't tell you the date, but there's a signaling that's taking place that something big is coming. And it's going to be during the Trump administration. I personally think what it is that through the push for restructuring the national security state, through going after people that broke the law with the whole fake dossier and election fraud and all this stuff, all right, that there's going to be fits within the national security state that to prevent them from losing power, they're willing to do another 9/11 event. And because we have senators and representatives in Congress that are a bunch of wussies, they're not going to push back on the national security state after that 9/11-like event. What they'll do is write more money to the national security state and give them more power. Because what will happen is they're going to go, well, we have, cells in the country, and now we have to do more surveillance, and we need more money and funding, and then Palantir's stock price will go up even more. You'll have these, Raytheon stock will be going up even more because there'll be more money in national security for the national security state to surveil the citizens. Not just internationally, international groups that could harm the United States, but also domestic groups. They're eroding your constitutional freedoms because you have a president that's coming into office that wants to restructure the national security state because the national security state has been rogue. Before we continue with CNN, and hopefully I don't have a heart attack before the end of the video here, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work so I can do these wonderful videos. Because where else are you going to get such profound knowledge? Get the Health Max 35. This is something you should be taking every day. You take a teaspoon of it a day, swish it in your mouth, gargle, 20 seconds, 30 seconds or so, and swallow. Neutralizes pathogens and maintains the mucosal barrier, boosts up your immune system. I take it every day. If you're not feeling well during the cold season, take a tablespoon or 2 a day. It's a great product. Another thing that you should be stocking up on are structural nano silver drops. I have 100 count here. I have it in cherry. I also have other drops and lozenges like Manuka honey lozenges and elderberry zinc lozenges in a 21 count. So please go to the store and get the cherry drops and lozenges. Why do you need them? Well, during the cold season, you're gonna get irritations in your throat. You want to attack that right away. Create those secretions, maintain that mucosal barrier, neutralize the irritant, okay? Now, this season is projected to be less total cases than the previous cold season. But cases are going up. The numbers that are coming in for December, they're starting to trickle in. They are up. It's elevated. There are many people sick in New York for different reasons. Some of it, according to the data, some of it is enterovirus, some of it is rhinovirus, some of it is influenza A, some of it's SARS-CoV-2, right? So, and RSV. Those are all going up. So you're gonna have case numbers higher in December, and you're gonna have case numbers higher in January. Now they're attributing it to the surge because of the holiday season. Very possible. And we're probably, by near the end of January, probably past the peak. All right, but cases are going up. You're gonna know people within your family that are sick. You're gonna know people at work that are sick. You're gonna know people within your circle of friends that are sick. All right, just be prepared. If you just be prepared and you just follow what I say to do, you're mitigating the issue. So just pay attention. It's really simple. So with that, I have, before I go to continue with the video, I have two types of structural nanosilver gels. I have it in a tube form, and I also have it in a dispenser. Okay, you use it the same way. It's a dual purpose product. It helps with your skin, it's a skincare, it can help heal wounds, and it also helps to neutralize pathogens. You can put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your nose, around your eyes, around your ears. Lightly coat your nostrils. Stays active for 5.5 hours. Way better than Perel. Perel doesn't stay active. It evaporates because it's alcohol based. Not only that, Perel cracks your skin. Structural nanosilver gel heals your skin, all right? So get this, be prepared, use it, especially during the cold season, and mitigate the problem. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the dispenser version or the tube version. They're both highly quality products that are dual purpose.
Towards the vehicle, appears to get inside of it. Now, officials say that his act in front of the Trump Hotel was a suicide. They say Livelsberger was suffering from PTSD and had trouble in his personal life. We know Livelsberger was active duty. He served in the special forces. He'd served in Afghanistan. He was a highly decorated military member.
I'm sorry that I'm interrupting so often, but so many ideas pop in my head, and it's my show and I can do whatever I want. But the thing is, they're setting it up. Domestic, unstable citizen, most likely military, 9/11-like event. They're setting it in motion. They're setting it in motion. Now, service members that do watch this channel, you gotta wake up. You gotta talk to your platoon or the group that you were in service. Make sure everybody's okay. And you got to circumvent what the national security deep state is starting to set in motion with this 9/11-like event. And when all of our antennas are up, we can stop it from happening. But you can see they're already starting to demonize. Unstable vet. Either currently in the military or have been out of the military for a while. I'm telling you, the national security state does not care about you. All they care about is the individual power that someone has within the national security state and the never-ending funding from Congress. And they don't want to be held accountable. And they're willing to demonize service members to be able to use you as a patsy for their next 9/11.
Attacker in New Orleans, Shamsuddin Jabbar, also served in Afghanistan, also decorated for his service. His commander in Afghanistan tweeting today, quote, "I am in utter disbelief. He was a great soldier, someone who showed discipline and dedication. To think that the same individual who once embodied quiet professionalism could harbor so much hate, leading to such unspeakable atrocities, is incomprehensible and heartbreaking." But a newly uncovered audio file uploaded by Jabbar about a year ago offers a look into his religious beliefs. There he says, quote, "Satan's voice is also the misleading of people from Allah's way. They really go hand in hand." And we see that this gradually drives a person to, it's a gentle, gradual luring into the things that God has made forbidden to us. The intoxicants like marijuana, alcohol, sedatives, opioid stimulants, and others. But despite the military and service similarities between the two attackers, officials say that the two incidents are not connected. But still tonight, law enforcement is on high alert as the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are warning of possible attacks. We've got both stories covered tonight with Natasha Chen on the ground in Las Vegas and Omar Jimenez in New York.
What if the national security state was working with these people? I don't have an answer on this, but let's say that they were, but they were individual cells and working in different silos. So they're not connected, but it was orchestrated by a higher group. Oh, so when someone says it's not connected, they're saying Cybertruck guy that blows himself up, with or without shooting himself in the head, because no one really knows. And, you know, some jihad that happened in New Orleans, they're not connected. But they don't go to the next level of thinking. Like, were they siloed and orchestrated with from a higher group? Maybe. What's the probability that both of these incidences taking place on New Year's Day, right? I think it was New Year's Day. Yeah, it was New Year's Day. And they're not connected, but yet they're both military. And they both use the same rent-a-car app. And the optics of, because we know that Elon has positioned himself with Trump. Trump has positioned himself with Elon for restructuring of the government. Where do you think some of that restructuring is going towards? The national security state. That restructuring there is a lot of wasteful spending there. On top of all the other nefarious things that they do, that there needs to be major restructuring of the heads of these agencies. So the optics are blow up Elon Musk's Cybertruck in front of Trump Tower in Las Vegas. Now, what I see in that is they're signaling to Elon, you are an enemy of the state. They're signaling to Trump, you are an enemy of the state. Now, why are they doing it in Las Vegas? Maybe that was an easy target. But also, Las Vegas is known for Sin City and gambling. Does that mean that maybe they're going to also target our economy? Now, when you look at 9/11, the targets were World Trade Center, right? The Pentagon. And then flight, what was it? The one that crashed in Pennsylvania, flight 93, was it? I don't remember the name of the flight. But, the one that crashed in Pennsylvania, the thought was the target was going to be Congress or the White House. So they were hitting branches of government, they were hitting the military, and they were hitting economics. Is this thing that we just saw on January 1st a prelude to this 9/11 like event that I'm seeing starting to emerge. There's signaling. There's a signaling that's happening here. Now, did Cybertruck guy know about New Orleans guy? Probably not. Probably not. That doesn't mean that they weren't working for the same people.
And Omar, let's start there with you, with this breaking details here that we are learning. What have you found out?
Yeah, so law enforcement officials are telling our John Miller that it was a rare organic compound not previously seen in the United States that was used in the explosive devices that were found in the French Quarter area after the attack that began at the intersection just behind me. And it comes as investigators are also learning more about the actions taken leading up to the time of the attack. Tonight, investigators saying they've determined that 42-year-old Samsudeen Jabbar set fire to the Airbnb in New Orleans where he was staying ahead of the attack. Authorities say he set a small fire in the hallway and strategically placed accelerants around the house as part of his effort to destroy evidence. All of this as federal authorities are now warning law enforcement across the country to be on the lookout for potential copycat attacks. So you're the council member that represents the French Quarter. How would you assess the ability to prevent something like this before New Year's Day in this area?
Well, seeing how it hadn't happened before, I would assume that forcing figured that we had it pretty under control. But after the events on New Year's Day, we clearly have weak spots, we clearly have vulnerabilities.
I saw some of those archers on the streets, you know, those yellow ones on the sidewalks now. Why weren't those there before?
That is a question for our law enforcement.
This is where that truck entered Bourbon Street in the early morning hours of the new year. There was a police vehicle here, essentially stationed as a makeshift barrier, as some of the city's previously installed barriers were under repair. But even if a vehicle took up this entire street, you can see there still is a good amount of space to go around that onto the sidewalk, which, as we know from video, is essentially what happened. Now you see some yellow temporary archer barriers on the sidewalk, but those were not there when this attack unfolded. The city police department has made clear in recent days that barriers previously installed to try and prevent vehicles from coming down the street were under repair ahead of February's Super Bowl in the city, and many of the current measures in place are temporary. But going back years to 2019, a private security firm warned the risk of terrorism, including by vehicular attacks, remained, quote, highly possible, and recommended that vertical safety structures that can move up and down, known as bollards, be fixed and improved immediately. That didn't happen.
It's still a bit unclear as to what took so long. We are definitely going to look into this as a council.
Can you say municipality corruption? Where'd the money go? Why was there such a failure of security? So it's a little bit of DEI because, you know, grandma is running the police department, and you have a lot of corruption going on.
Who got the contracts? If they were tied up where? Why wasn't this moving forward?
For some business owners who were open at the time of the attack,
it was traumatic. You know, it wasn't just like a random shooting or something or whatever. This was like, you will see it all down the street.
the extra barricades are a welcome sight for them.
It's very nice to see him, and we know we have more to go. I'm happy to see them all, and I'm happy to see, you know, all the police officers.
And there is still a police presence at the entrance to Bourbon Street here. Now, obviously, we have the Super Bowl coming up next month here, and I actually asked that city councilman if he was satisfied with the security assessment or the security efforts that they've seen so far. He says those sidewalk archer barriers are just the start of what he would like to see in the wider safety picture. But of course, as you heard, he did believe there were clearly some vulnerabilities. He does expect them to have more security in the lead up to that big event there.
Out front now, Leon Panetta, former defense secretary, and of course also former director of the CIA. Director,
I guarantee, I haven't even seen this video, but I guarantee you that he's gonna say something like, we need more money for surveillance of domestic cells.
I'm going to just start with you, if I may, we've got a lot of breaking details here, but with what John Miller is reporting on the New Orleans attacker. He is saying that the attacker used a rare compound, an organic one, that until now had never been seen as used in the United States. And then officials at this point are still trying to determine how the attacker may have obtained it. We don't yet have details on exactly what it is, what made it so rare. So I understand there's crucial pieces of this missing, but we do know rare organic compound never before seen used in the U.S. What does that even say to you?
Well, it goes
Well,
back to...
thank you for asking, Aaron. Thank you for asking. It means that you have a porous border, and they're setting up for another 9/11 moment. That's what it means. They're tying domestic cells to the international groups that don't like America. And guess what? The CIA's all over this one. Their playground is in the Middle East. Their playground is in Middle America. I'm telling you, they're setting us up for a 9/11.
To the fundamental finding here, which is that he was essentially a lone wolf terrorist
Bullshit.
who was inspired by ISIS. And what that means is that in many ways, even though there may have been nobody to connect with him directly, that being inspired by ISIS and following ISIS, and
Let's think about
ISIS
this.
was
Let's
aware-
let's put our Sherlock Holmes hat on. Panetta. All right, let's put our Sherlock Holmes hat on. Ex-military guy. All right. I think he was in human services. I'm not sure what he did. I think he was in the service for 10 years. So he must have done many things, all right? So he has some businesses that fail. He's having some marital issues, and I think his marriage fails. You know, he was, because of the financial problems that he was having, he was living in squalor. All right, so there was probably some mental issues that needed to be handled. He probably went towards religion to try to fill that hole that was going on after he left the military and had these failing situations in his life. But how do you get rare explosive material? All right? It's not like he went to Home Depot, right? He didn't go to some sort of, some sort of Walmart, all right? So if he's getting, I don't know what this material is. I'm sure someone has published this, but the thing is that if it's rare and it's something overseas, then there must have been some sort of connection. Now, they're making this connection, well, because he's a jihadist now, that he must have connections to the Middle East and blah, 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 and all that. This sounds a little like the CIA. How do we know he wasn't working, for an agency? How do we know that? And the cover is, he was in squalor. We don't know. Especially right with the juxtaposition of what happened with the Cybertruck. And I'd be curious to know what kind of explosives were in there. So, but rare explosive material with some lone wolf that's having financial problems, doesn't sound, it doesn't jive. Something doesn't jive. Now maybe what has happened is that maybe he's not working for the agency. Or worked past tense, right? Because he's dead, all right? But maybe they found someone that was vulnerable, and the agency was hooking him up with people that had access to this type of material. So you had an individual that was on the edge emotionally because of finances and whatnot, personal problems. He was going down a path, and the agency was able to find people like this and kind of coach them towards this kind of domestic situation. I would not put this past the CIA. They're not for us. They're for themselves. Now, I know this sounds conspiratorial, and I have no evidence to suggest that this is the case. I'm just stating a hypothesis that what possibly could have happened here. I don't believe he worked for the agency directly. He definitely had emotional problems. But could the agency link him up with certain people that they know wanted to do harm to American citizens? And this individual was on the edge, and he was just slightly coached over it by the agency. They probably worked that way. I don't know for sure, but something doesn't seem right here. It happens on New Year's Day, early in the morning for the New Orleans situation, and an event with the Cybertruck. And it's already been telegraphed by Trump that he wants to restructure the national security state. The CIA and the FBI are totally out of control. Now, those were agencies that were heavily involved with 9/11. What the hell is going on? Some lone wolf that can find rare organic material? Really? Really? How?
That there was this lone wolf that was operating in this country. I think there has to be a very careful investigation as to how
Again, I apologize. Every 10 seconds I have to interrupt. But the thing is that they're going to keep on pushing the lone wolf's story, because what does that mean? If it was a consortium, then you could go after that consortium, target, kill, and done. But if it's a lone wolf, you never know when that's going to happen. So you have to have surveillance technologies never ending. You got to have 1984 and Big Brother, and you have to have Little Sister forever when there's lone wolves. But if you have an enemy that's coordinated, that's mechanized, maybe even, with asymmetric warfare, but it's coordinated, then you can seek and destroy the enemy and then go back to a peaceful setting. But if you have lone wolves that are domestic, you got to have surveillance technology. So you have a CIA director going up to Congress saying, we need more money for surveillance. We need to have more servers. We need to use AI. We need to have Minority Report. We need to erode the constitutional freedoms of the American citizen because we have lone wolves. And they wink, wink. And that wink, wink to the congressman is, we're going to buy technology from Palantir. Make sure you buy stock in there. We're going to need Raytheon. Make sure you buy some stock there. And they'll also go wink, wink. And that means that they created a situation for the lone wolf. Somehow, some way, indirectly or directly. This is the reason why the national security state should be truncated, seriously reduced in its funds, And every single motherfucker that has perpetrated this type of thing needs to be held accountable. This fucking dinosaur, Panetta.
Found that resulted in, or that could have resulted in additional explosions, how that found its way into his hands. I think it is something we've got to pay attention to, because I think this is a dangerous moment if we're facing other lone wolf terrorists in this country.
Yeah,
It's
you got
incredibly
other
dangerous.
lone wolves. You got other lone wolves. We got to be worried. We need to have surveillance technology. We got to have the ability to hunt those lone wolves. The CIA and the FBI are supposed to protect us from an existential threat. Now, the CIA is supposed to deal with the international threat, and the FBI is supposed to deal with the domestic threat, the existential threat, not the demonizing of certain types of political groups that are against the establishment. But if you have a group like, let's say, Republicans, and you're a mother, and let's say you have kids in school, and in public school, the FBI thinks you're a terrorist because you don't want to have gender dysphoria in your school. There is a slow takeover of our government within the national security state. For sure. There's no doubt about that. Now, I remember hearing this one guy that was an ex-CIA. He wrote a book, and he's an interesting fellow, but, and a good person just as an individual, but, ex-CIA guy, all right? And he was saying, they're so focused on the existential, threats. And my take on this is they are the existential threat. The CIA is supposed to be dealing with existential threats internationally, but they are the existential threat for our constitutional freedoms. Now, when that takes place, it is the obligation and the right of the citizen to absolve the national security state, because they're out of control. Now, this guy, he's got some stock. He's got some stock in Palantir, and Raytheon, Lockheed, and some AI companies and some drone companies, and some camera companies. So you get on CNN pushing the CIA agenda, and you can bump up the stock a little bit. You think I'm wrong? Start watching Palantir. Watch the stock. Watch the stock. Trust me on this.
You talk about ISIS, certainly he was inspired by ISIS at the least, but what I find interesting, Director, is that ISIS has not yet claimed responsibility for the attack, which in some cases, when these horrific things happen, even if it's simply inspired by ISIS and not directed by...
Well, thank you, Aaron, for asking me. Dr. Paul Cottrell thinks that the CIA agents were hung over from New Year's Eve, and they didn't have the time to write the communique to the ISIS in the Middle East. But stay tuned for next week, Aaron.
They still celebrate it, they take credit for it, they acknowledge it. They have not done so in this case. Why do you think that could be?
Well, I don't read a lot into that, because I suspect that ISIS understands that they were the principal inspiration to this terrorist. And if
Why can't we have
there are
real
others,
journalists that bring on people like Panetta and just say, prove to me, Panetta, that the CIA was not involved. Prove to me they were not involved. Just shut up and prove to me they're not involved before we go any further. No one does that on CNN, I mean CIA.
Like this individual for being inspired by ISIS, they're not going to step out there and claim a lot of credit at this point in time. So I don't think we can read a lot into ISIS not claiming credit. But the fact is they were there. Look, in the intelligence business, I have to tell you, the one thing we worried about the most were lone wolves.
When it comes to the agency and the craft, the spy craft, in the intelligence business, they are a bunch of fucking retards. They get it wrong most of the time, and many of the international problems that we have is because of the CIA. Not all, but a lot of it.
How do you track them down? How do you try to protect against this kind of random terrorist act? It is very tough to do. And that's why when it happens, it's got to...
And it's so tough for us, so we need more surveillance technology. We need more provisions to erode the constitutional freedoms of the domestic citizen. We need Minority Report. We need 1984. We need you to obey the government. That's where this is leading to. Because they let this happen.
There's a lot of concern about whether or not intelligence and law enforcement are paying enough attention to the potential for other lone wolves.
I remember this conversation, having it with you so many years ago when you said this was your largest, your single biggest concern. Director, are you concerned that you have two individuals, and obviously they are not related as far as we understand them in any way, but decorated military, one active duty. How much does that worry you?
Well, I obviously, as the former Secretary of Defense, I don't like the idea that former soldiers who served well, at least during the time they spent in the military, that somehow there was something that happened that then turned them into terrorists. What that was, we don't know. Look, I don't think there's a direct connection here between
MK Ultra? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe they're pissed off at the national security state for fucking them up.
military experience and suddenly becoming a terrorist. But I do think that what it means is we have to pay attention to people who have served, who have been in action, pay attention as to whether or not they are potential targets for ISIS to try to
Oh, no, that's, they're just wrapping up the video right here. We gotta watch out for our military as lone wolves. Oh, okay, Panetta. All right. I know your game. All right. Let's do another video. Maybe I can get through it without interrupting. Let's go to Mark Levin, because he states our intel agencies are soft. He's probably pushing the whole DEI issue here. But before we
It's the Biden regime in these colleges.
Before we go with Mark Levin, and he goes on a rampage, please go to my store, help support my work. These great entertaining videos that I do. I really do, all kidding aside, I am very concerned of a 9/11 like a moment creeping up in 2025 or 2026. Because that would be the perfect solution to prevent the national security state from being restructured by the different nominees that Trump is putting up to the Senate, all right? Like Tulsi, Hegseth, right? And Patel. So it's a high probability situation. So we're gonna need to cover it. And we need to put our spider sense on. So we gotta build up community and make sure that we watch that we don't have another 9/11, because it's not gonna be good. Our constitutional freedoms are at risk here. And let's think about it. How much damage can a lone wolf really do? Even if they have a lot of explosive, not a lot, all right? Maybe a few thousand, at most of casualties, at most, usually maybe a few hundred, okay? That's not worth eroding your constitutional freedoms. Even 1 million people dying from some sort of terrorist attack is not worth eroding your constitutional freedoms. But they'll make the event so bad where you feel so unsafe that you're willing to give up your constitutional freedoms. And this is exactly what Benjamin Franklin, who was probably the most wise of all of our founding fathers. Do not give away your freedoms for security, because when you do, you will not have either. He warned people. He warned us not to go down this path. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support my work. I've partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we've developed these deodorant bars, all right? And these deodorant bars are either in citrus or in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree for the scent. They're made from essential oils from the Himalayas, very high quality ingredients, all natural. There's no aluminum, no baking soda in this, very high quality, and it's a dual purpose. You use it as a deodorant for males and females, but it also helps to detoxify your body. So go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video, and get a couple bars for your household. Citrus or peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, very high quality deodorants, help support my work, and help support your health. It's way better than the crap that Procter & Gamble sells. And get the structural nano silver soaps that I have. You can get it in charcoal tea tree. Go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Very high quality soaps. Neutralize pathogens. Helps your skin out. And I take a lot of different supplements to slow down the aging process, boost up my immune system, and help with my endocrine system and all these other things that I do with the stack. One of the ingredients that I've added to my stack, one of the compounds, is NAC. The reason why I added it to my stack was to boost up glutathione levels. Glutathione is a great way to soak up free radicals. It's synergistic with C60. So C60 soaks up free radicals one way, and then NAC helps to soak up free radicals a different way. It's through the glutathione pathway. So this boosts up your glutathione, really important, especially when you get older. It also helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney, especially if you take acetaminophen. And NAC helps to calm the nervous system, reduces anxiety, tries to get you into a parasympathetic mode. If you're in a sympathetic mode, there's too much anxiety and too much cortisol levels, so that hurts you. It prevents you from sleeping, and too much cortisol levels increases your glucose, your blood sugar, and your immune system goes down. Bad. But if you go into parasympathetic mode, you're more calmer, and your body is just in a better state. Okay, so NAC has 3 different things about it. 1, boosts up the glutathione so you can soak up free radicals. It helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney, and it calms down your central nervous system, calms down anxiety. Okay? This is a great stack for improving your health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take NAC. This is something that I've added to my stack to improve my glutathione levels. And since we're talking about inflammation and glucose levels and stuff, before we go to Mark Levin's video, take the turmeric and the ashwagandha as a stack, okay? I've been doing this for years. Turmeric brings down inflammation. It's also an antioxidant, so it soaks up free radicals, all right? This brings down pro-inflammatory cytokines. Ashwagandha root helps to control your blood glucose levels and your cortisol levels. So many people in the United States have too high cortisol and too high blood glucose levels. So taking ashwagandha root will help to calm that down, all right, and control your blood glucose levels. When you do that, you reduce inflammation, and you're also helping your immune system. When you stack these together, they work really well in terms of improving your immune system by calming it down and soaking up free radicals and controlling the blood glucose levels. And it's also helping with cardiovascular health. So you're helping your immune system and your cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, take this as a stack. The turmeric brings down inflammation and it soaks up free radicals. Ashwagandha root brings down cortisol levels and controls your blood glucose levels. They work really well together for your immune system and your cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, get the turmeric and the ashwagandha. It's a great stack. And it's one of the 3 pillars that I have. The 3 pillars of just starting off on good health: neutralize pathogens with the structural nanosilvers, soak up free radicals with strong antioxidants like C60, and bring down inflammation with the turmerics and the ashwagandhas. All right.
And Saturday, man, it's good to be back. And it's good to have you back too. We have 2 great guests for you tonight, Governor Ron DeSantis and Gordon Chang. But before we go to our guests, isn't it strange when you have an entity that's at war with us, but we don't accept the fact that they're at war with us? I'm talking about Islamists, Islamic terrorists. All over the world, they've infiltrated our country. Every aspect of our country and our culture and our government, in academia and our media, they're here. Right now, as I speak, the war against America by the Islamist terrorists. They've infiltrated our country. And yet we have this horrendous Islamic terrorist attack in New Orleans by Samsud Din Jabbar. And the first thing out of the mouth of the official, senior FBI official is, they're not sure it's terrorism. They're not sure it's terrorism. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we can't win a war, and many, many more of our American citizens are going to die if we don't acknowledge that we're in a war with Islamic terrorism. And yet apparently the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the soon-to-be gone director, thank God, he talks about red flags, he talks about terrorism, he spoke a lot about white supremacy, he talked a lot about homegrown terrorism. This term, homegrown terrorism, is very interesting to me. Homegrown. What does that mean? These people are born in America? Is that what that means? It's not purely homegrown, is it, American? The Islamists are here. Their money's here. Their propaganda's here. Their front groups are here.
There's 2 issues, Levin, all right? One issue is that you have, because of what's going on in the Middle East now, you have Islamic terrorists that want to do harm to the country, all right? You also have a national security state that wants more power. So the way the national security state will work is 2 ways. Open up the borders and allow the Islamic terrorists to come in and create cells. They're not going to be lone wolves. They're going to be the cells that work together. And then also create an environment where you are maybe cultivating certain groups in the country that leads to some sort of lone wolf situation. So they're playing both sides of the, I see this as they're playing both sides of the fence, the national security state. They're allowing the Islamic terrorists to come in through the porous borders. They're standing down and letting them get organized. They're watching them, but they're letting it happen. just like what 9/11, just like what happened in 9/11. All right? So that's through the porous border system. And then you also kind of cultivate lone wolves, right? And either way, either through real Islamic terrorism or lone wolf cultivation, you get what you want. You get an event like a 9/11, and you can go to Congress and ask for more emergency power and an erosion of our constitutional freedoms, and they get people that have positioned themselves with certain types of companies are going to make a lot of money. That's the way this is playing out. So it's not just the enemy overseas. We also have a national security state that's allowing it to happen. We have a national security state that's cultivating individuals in this country for an event. Or they're creating false flags. That's another, maybe a third element to this. I don't trust the CIA at all. At all.
So American citizens are being influenced, inundated, propagandized by these Islamist terrorist entities, some of which are states, some of which are organizations. So what is our government doing about it? What is the Biden regime doing about it? What's the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, the FBI, the intel organizations doing about it? Clearly not enough. We have terrorists linked and supporting organizations in our country. What are we doing about them? We know who they are. We have terrorists promoting faculty throughout our colleges and universities. What are we doing about it? Nothing. We have terrorist indoctrination, imams in mosques in our communities who are promoting terrorism. Not all, obviously. It doesn't take all, does it? What are we doing about it? Nothing. We have terrorists linked and supporting student organizations like Students for Justice in Palestine with direct links to terrorist entities. It's got 350 organizations on our campuses in this country. With billions of dollars flowing into our country from enemy states, including terrorist states and terrorist organizations, what are we doing about it? We have open borders. We have really no vetting of millions of people coming.
So let's think about this for a second. You have all of these people coming in from different areas of the world. It's been well documented. There's Chinese coming over the border. There's Middle Eastern, individuals coming over the border. South American, Ukrainian, many different types of people coming over the border. What's surprising is the number of Chinese, all right? Okay, so you have, let's say Trump goes in and de-escalates the war in Ukraine, and there's some sort of peace agreement that takes place. You may have a cell, a lone wolf, that is disturbed by the peace agreement and is very pro-Ukrainian and decides to do some sort of an attack. Or maybe Russian. Or let's say as the war continues in the Middle East and Israel starts to gain more ground, some sort of Iranian, Syrian, Yemen cell decides to do an attack because U.S. is supporting Israel in the war effort. Or let's say things start getting hot and heavy with Taiwan and China, and there's some sort of cell in the United States, and they start blowing up infrastructure to try to, weaken. I think this would be a bad plan, but to try to weaken the resolve of the United States against China. These are all very strong possibilities. And all three of these events are going to take place in 2025 under the Trump administration. He's going to try to have a peace agreement in Ukraine. he's going to align with Israel with the war effort. It's very probable that Iran's theocratic regime will be destroyed under the Trump administration. And President Xi is licking his chops on Taiwan. So these are all very plausible events. And don't you think that cells, because of a porous border, are already here? That the national security state allowed to happen? Because they want this event to happen in the United States. This is kind of like another Pearl Harbor. Galvanize the nation for another war effort. Galvanize the nation. Demonize, let's say a Russian cell, or they claim it to be a Russian cell after the peace agreement, and blows up something. Do you think you can galvanize enough American citizens to reboot the war in Ukraine? Maybe. Most likely the event is going to be some sort of Islamic terrorism, and that it'll increase the war effort in the Middle East. That's probably what's going to happen.
Terrorist states, we have tens of thousands of people coming into this country, single adult males of military age. What are we doing about it? Oh, we're giving them welfare benefits, don't you know? Maybe even visa cards coming from Venezuela, coming from all kinds of countries. Oh, but don't worry, we're told by liberals. Oh, don't worry, we're deporting more than ever before. You know, that's pretty funny. We've got tens of millions of illegal aliens in this country, but don't worry, we're deporting more than ever before. Isn't that a strange comment? It's a ridiculous comment. We're actually flying people in here. We're actually pretending illegal aliens are legal. We're doing everything we can to bring people into this country. Terrorists, criminals, Venezuelan gangs, it doesn't even matter. And yet they tell us they're deporting more than ever before. We have social media platforms that are being exploited by terrorists and terrorist organizations. What are we doing about it? We have executive branch officials unable or unwilling to do anything effective about it. Well, we've done something about that. We did it in November, just in the nick of time. Well, we're told there's a lot of reasons we can't do anything about it, like the First Amendment. All these people preaching terrorism and attacks and hate and violence. All these people in the streets chasing Jews like we have a Kristallnacht every night. Synagogues under attack. Jewish organizations under attack. What can we do about it? The First Amendment. People who know nothing about the First Amendment keep telling us we can't do anything about it because of the First Amendment. Well, there is unprotected speech. There are such categories in this country: defamation, fighting words, true threats, obscenity, child pornography, hate speech, fraud. Now, there are certain restrictions, of course, but maybe we should give it a try. Don't you think, every now and then, to go after these individuals? The latest Supreme Court decision, as pointed out by Drexel Laws, Virginia versus Black in 2003. That involved the image of a burning cross, still one that inspires fear and anger among Black and Jewish Americans, and is an unfortunate fact that it's not been left in the past with other ugly relics. In 1998, 3 men, Barry Black, Richard Elliott, and Jonathan O'Mara, were arrested and convicted separately of cross burning, violating a Virginia state statute prohibiting cross burning on the property of another or in public places with the intent to intimidate. They appealed their cases to the Virginia Supreme Court, arguing that the statute was unconstitutional because it treated the act of cross-burning itself as the only action required to prove intent to intimidate. The court agreed with them. So it went to the Supreme Court of the United States. That court held in a 7-2 decision, authored by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, that a state may ban cross-burning carried out with the intent to intimidate. But the provision of the Virginia statute treating the act of cross-burning as prima facie evidence of intent to intimidate was unconstitutional. A cross-burning may be carried out for a reason other than intent to intimidate, according to the court, such as a political rally. Even if the act of cross-burning arouses a sense of anger or hatred among the vast majority of citizens, that anger or hatred is not enough to prohibit the burning. Only cross-burnings done with the intent to intimidate and prohibited under the First Amendment, because burning a cross is a particularly virulent form of intimidation. Well, let's see. How about chasing Jews down the street or preventing them from going to college when they pay tuition? We have all kinds of overt affirmative acts to go with the so-called free speech that have been taking place in this country. Seems like a great Supreme Court decision to me. Immigration Reform Law Institute in October 2024, they also point out that we have a pursuant to section 23398 of the Anti-Terrorism Act, it is a crime for anyone in the United States to provide material support to a designated terrorist organization. Additional federal laws make it illegal to endorse or espouse terrorist activity or to persuade others to do the same. Foreign national.
And by colleges and government officials placating to organizations that are sympathetic to Islamic terrorism or Islamic, the Islamic cause in the Middle East, or some sort of sympathetic to some sort of caliphate, all right? These people are falling into that category that I was saying a year ago, where you have the ultra-liberals, where they're going to align themselves with the dark side of Esau. And that over time, as the war effort is happening in the Middle East, you're going to start seeing that the dark side of Esau is going to be cursed. And these ultra-liberals will be held accountable, and they're picking the wrong side. You're again seeing it. You're seeing it right now. It's already starting to turn, right? So, it's going to be interesting. That's why I'm saying 2025 is going to be a very, very, very interesting year with a lot of activity. All right. Now, hopefully, we get through this alive. I think most people will. But the thing is there's going to be a lot of activity in 2025. And it's because of the national security state and all of its doings over the many, many decades. It's going to have convulsions now. But here is a perfect example where you have the ultra-liberal mindset, where they've aligned themselves with some sort of minority kind of aligning themselves and having sympathy for a minority group, all right, in the Middle East. Well, I mean, they are a majority group in the Middle East. Let me rephrase that. A minority group in the United States that's aligned with the cause in the Middle East, that's tied to, a caliphate kind of mentality. Now, when you're aligning yourself to that, you're sympathetic to that, but yet the ground situation is evolving, where that caliphate is weakening. The way I say it is that it's Esau is weakening and Jacob is strengthening. I mean, there's an upswing here, right? And as that's happening, these sympathizers in the United States are going to start being shown that they were on the wrong side of this. People that are on the Jacob side, people that are Esau that repent, are going to be blessed. The ones that negative Esau are going to be cursed. So if you're sympathetic to negative Esau, you're going to be cursed. And as the activity in 2025 starts to increase, as the velocity, right, as the speed of this increases, there's an acceleration that's happening of events, that this will get faster and faster and faster and faster, and there's these ones that align themselves with negative Esau. It's going to be very, very problematic. It's not going to be, oh, I feel sorry, blah, blah, blah. There's going to be serious retribution. There's going to be serious retribution because of these ones that align themselves with negative Esau. Now, there are ones that align themselves with Esau, but a part of Esau does repent. And that's when Esau's positive. Esau splits. Talking metaphysics here. Esau splits positively and negatively. The sympathizers most of them are going to stay with the negative Esau. And those people are going to be hunted down. They're going to be hunted down spiritually, and they're going to be hunted down physically. Why isn't this playing? I lost.
Been deported by the Biden.
There you go.
I think I count 0. Maybe there's a few. After all, they're deporting more people than ever before, as we have tens of millions of people in this country who shouldn't be here. A large number of foreign students who overtly endorsed terrorist activity during the protests blatantly violated the terms of their student visas, rendering them subject to deportation. Yet senior officials at a number of educational institutions have openly admitted that in order to protect them from deportation, foreign student protesters would not be suspended or expelled, even when they advocated violence against Jewish students and faculty members, or carried ISIS flags, or Hamas flags, or Hezbollah flags. Oh, what's worse is the federal government's complete failure to take any action to hold either universities or law-breaking foreign students accountable. They're on student visas, you kick their ass out of the country. In fact, government responses to the protests have been so similar to those offered by universities and colleges that it appears that the two are collaborating. That is, the Biden regime and these colleges, to protect foreign students at the expense of the American public. When the White House was asked about
Here's an example of how the negative Esau, the ones that have aligned themselves with negative Esau, will start to collapse. Look at the fall of Syria and how quick it happened. Now the question is, will it be stable with HTS? Who knows, all right? But it fell very quickly. And you can see that now the United States and Israel is moving towards Iran, right? And I think that's what the drones are all about. They're testing stuff, all right, for a drone warfare. That's my gut feeling of it. But look at what happened at very prestigious institutions that were pushing the DEI agenda and demonizing God, country, and family. It collapsed. The mountains, these mountains, right, of the intelligentsia melted like wax. They melted down very rapidly. So you're seeing mountains melting in the Middle East, and you're seeing mountains melting like wax in intelligentsia institutions, because they align themselves with the negative soul root of Esau.
Shooting and deporting foreign students who advocated on behalf of terror groups, Biden administration officials were dismissive, characterizing the chaos on hundreds of university campuses as young people engaging in the exercise of their First Amendment rights. Which brings me back to the first point that I already raised. Mark, what does this have anything to do with what took place in New Orleans? Everything. It's puzzle pieces. We're under attack. This is a war. Homegrown, imported, all of it. Did the Biden White House work with colleges to keep terror-sympathizing foreign students from deportation? The answer is yes.
This is where his point is really important. By the policies of the intelligentsia that have aligned themselves to the negative soul root of Esau, are growing young men and women into not being aligned with God, country, and family. And when that happens, now you have a pool of people that you can radicalize and move them in a certain direction through social programming, MK Ultra type stuff, right? You move them in a certain direction and they become radicalized, and then all of a sudden an event happens. Now some of them may be a larger group where it's coordinated, but some of them may be lone wolves. And this is where the national security state now comes in and says, we got a problem now. But meanwhile, the national security state used their social programming to push them over the edge, promoted these DEI and sympathizing agendas to align to the negative soul root of Esau. It was done on purpose. It was done on purpose. This is not just an emergent property of social dynamics because of some changing zeitgeist. No. This was orchestrated. They wanted to radicalize individuals in the country at the university level and through the social media to be able to flip the switch, and boom, you have millions of people that are potentially radicalized. They can go full tilt radical, all right? Full tilt retard, right? They have a huge pool, and then out of that, the power of numbers happens, and a small percentage, let's say if you have 1 million radicalized students, or a million radicalized individuals in the United States because of the social programming. But even just 0.5% of 1 million people is enough to cause a problem. Not even a half, 1/4%. Let's just say 0.1%. You have enough people to cause the national security state to ring the alarm bell in Congress to ask for more emergency power. It was all done on purpose.
So here we are in a state of war. And what do we have in the White House? We have a sympathizer with the enemy. And what about here in our country? Disrupt terror funding, disrupt these terror-supporting organizations. Look at this one. This just happened a few weeks ago. House Ways and Means Committee, in this statement, House Democrats blocked bill cracking down on support for terrorism by tax-exempt organizations in our country and providing relief from tax penalties for American hostages. Legislation that ended tax-exempt status for U.S. nonprofits materially supporting terrorist organizations was defeated by the Democrats.
Now, you know why that is. Because you have very wealthy individuals moving money into these nonprofits to promote the demonization of God, country, and family. There is a demolition. There is an orchestrated demolition that is happening in the United States. There are groups of people that are literally trying to destroy the United States. Not metaphorically, literally. And they're funding into these nonprofits. Now, if you reduce their tax exempt status, and then they may go belly up, right? Then you have less organizations to be able to be part of this operational warfare, the psychological warfare that's taking place that I'm talking about at the universities and, at the society at large. These organizations that they were trying to take the tax exempt status, when you look at what do? Do they demonize God? Do they demonize family? Do they demonize country? And I'm willing to bet in one of those three categories, the answer is yes. Do they radicalize these individuals? Is the organization radicalize a group of people in the United States? The answer in many cases is yes. Now think about this. When the crisis of 2020 happened and people like myself were trying to inform the public, and we were heavily censored through the national security state. The FBI was censoring people. They had people working at Facebook. They had people working at YouTube that actually censored content. All right, that's a fact. All right, so they were censoring during that crisis. They were trying to prevent the freedom of speech. They tried to prevent people to explain to the public what really happened. But they'll let these other organizations just keep on pushing hate, keep on creating this kind of like psychological warfare that radicalizes individuals. So when they do something, they can come in and ask for more emergency power. This is a strong argument that the national security state is doing this on purpose. They don't want to shut it down. They don't want to prevent lone wolves. They want the lone wolf. They need the lone wolf to justify their existence.
Despite strong bipartisan support early on, House Democrats blocked passage of the Stop Terrorism Financing and Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act, the legislation, which included similar policies already approved by unanimous consent in the Senate, would halt tax subsidies going to U.S. nonprofits, groups like GETTR, or Students for Justice in Palestine, with all these ties to Hamas and so forth. Nonprofits that materially support terrorist organizations provide fair tax treatment for Americans held hostage and so forth. During the debate, House Democrats specifically cited the election of President Trump as the reason for now opposing legislation they previously supported, with one member saying, with Trump's election, the conditions have changed. Yeah, now the terrorists have something to worry about. Apparently that upsets the Democrats. For months, the House Ways and Means Committee has been investigating the
national security state is worried of losing power and money. They're setting it up. I'm telling you, they are setting up a 9/11-like event. This is happening. This is just, I'll tell you, I really wish my country would just go to a pre-9/11 day. I wish that, but of course that's not, wishing doesn't help, but.
Troubling pattern of nonprofits operating in the United States, homegrown you might say, with suspected ties to terrorism while still maintaining their tax-exempt status. That means we, the American taxpayers, subsidizing these organizations. Multiple committee hearings expose the activities of these groups, such as the Alliance for Global Justice, a U.S. nonprofit with tax-exempt status, which was found to be funding a group recently designated by the U.S. government as a sham charity and funder of terrorism. Despite this fact, the IRS has yet to revoke Alliance for Global Justice's tax-exempt status. I think we'll need a new commissioner in there, Mr. President-elect. And why would the mosque to which this mass murder in New Orleans went to refuse to cooperate with the FBI? I mean, already the FBI said, well, we don't really think
There
it's
was
a
two
terrorism.
things. There's
We just
two
don't know
reasons
yet.
why the Democratic Party played the way they did. They didn't want to take away the tax exempt status. One, because the election was coming up and they needed that constituency, that Middle Eastern or just minority constituency within, let's say Michigan, like for example. Dearborn was a major issue for the Democratic Party, all right, because of what was going on with Biden and the alignment with Israel. So you had a Democratic Party that wanted these different minority groups to be able to get their vote, especially the Muslim vote. They wanted to also get the black vote. All right, so they were pro BLM and they were I'll call pro Hamas. All right. The other aspect was that they are aligned with the national security state, and the national security state wants the cells to come in with the porous border. Now, with Trump in, he's president-elect, he'll be inaugurated on January 20th. But now these cells are now in the country, and the Democratic Party has lost. They are trying to find their way on how they might gain seats in the midterm, so they can't keep on playing the same stupid playbook, right? They have to be aligning themselves in a way where maybe they distance from Islamic terrorist type groups and the BLM movement, because they're the Democratic Party went too woke, too ultra lib, right, and lost seats. So they have to move more closer to the center to try to gain seats in the midterm. But the national security state now goes, now, because we already have been infiltrated through the porous border, have an event happen, demonize a group to allow for additional emergency powers given to the national security state. So something happens, and you know there's going to be some sort of demonization, like, well, we have too many undesirables coming in, we have to strengthen the border now. They align themselves with Trump on that point, strengthen the border. And then the other point that they're going to be pushing is additional powers for surveillance of the population. And so they buy all this technology and they use all this stuff, and now it's 1984. Got big brother and little sister. That's what's going to happen. That's what's happening.
Now they've concluded what everybody already knew. So the Jewish News Service refer FBI to CARE, New Orleans attackers local mosque tells members. Wow, it's deeply troubling and wrong for this local Houston mosque to refer all questions to CARE, a Jew-hating group which praised other Islamic terrorist attacks, writes Mark Klein of ZOA, Zionist Organization of America. Majid Bilal, the local Houston mosque near the home of this mass murder, has been receiving a good deal of unwanted press attention since the 4-year-old drove a pickup truck into a crowd of people. In a statement posted on Facebook, a temporary post that expires, the mosque management wrote that everyone is aware of the New Orleans tragic event. I want to emphasize, they posted, the importance of everyone to stay very vigilant and aware of your surroundings. The safety of our community is the most important thing. If anyone is contacted by the media, it's very important that you do not respond. If approached by the FBI and response is necessary, please refer to CARE and ISGH. It is crucial that we stay united at this time as we condemn these terrible acts. Please stay safe. Well, why don't they respond to the FBI? Go to CARE. Oh, there's books written about CARE. There's FBI Justice Department documents written about CARE, how it was founded in the 1990s by Hamas, how it's a Hamas front group, how it was part of the Holy Land Foundation, a legal funding operation, and how on October 7th, its lead, well, I'll call him executive director, came out and openly supported and defended the October 7th attack on Israel. This organization is operating in our own country. Enormous amount of funds, like Students for Justice in Palestine, linked to terrorist affiliate. Enormous amounts of funds, and what do we do about it? Nothing. There's no war. It's all Islamophobia. And again, we're not talking about all Muslims. Why would we? We're talking about jihadis, terrorists. And what about these colleges and universities and their faculties who promote terrorism, Marxism, terrorism, anti-Americans, but terrorism and Islamist groups? Oh, they came out of the woods, didn't they? After October 7th, in fact, they're still out of the woods.
It's not just
the Urban Institute.
What's happening in these universities is not just this Islamic terrorism alignment or sympathy. It's just it's anti. They are anti-American. They're anti-constitutional republic. They hate America. It is so sad to see some of these students where they just hate America. But yet they want they want all the benefits. They want the freedoms of the country and the prosperity and all, but they just hate America. For example, there was this individual on the Hill, the black the female that was on the Hill that was kicked off the Hill for what she did during an interview at an event. I can't remember her name right now. I think her first name's Joy. But she was kicked off the Hill. All right, double degreed Harvard, Harvard College, Harvard Law. She hated Harvard. She hated Harvard. She hated Harvard so much. Why did you get the degrees? Because she wanted the benefits, but then because she was a black female, she felt that she was in a position to demonize, because it put her into a category of this whole BLM kind of stuff. Demonize institutions, try to get the reparations, but get all of the benefits of the institutions that you're demonizing. That's called a hypocrite.
Points out that we had spent a lot of money, you and I, funding these colleges and universities. So why don't we defund them?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they want to defund the police. I have a better idea. Why don't we defund the organizations that promote terrorism?
Yep.
And hire people, faculty, that promote terrorism and brainwash our children and cause, therefore, death and mayhem. This Institute writes, in 2021, state and local governments spent $311 billion on higher education, or 8.5% of state and local direct general spending. As a share of state and local spending, higher education was the fourth largest expenditure. So state governments, some of them which are controlled by Republicans, why don't you do something about it? In fact, we have here from Dollars and Degrees, 18% of four-year public institutions of their revenue, 18% comes from the federal government, 20% from the state government, so over a third comes from government. Well, why don't we put the shoulder on these so-called academically free institutions and tell them to stop promoting terrorism? There are things we can do about it. And then, of course, we have the Biden regime itself and the open borders. But don't worry, they're deporting more than ever before, as they're importing more than ever before. Cuckoo.
I am not speaking in a hyperbole. There are many, many college students at these elite institutions that hate the country, that want extreme socialism / communism. I am not exaggerating. It's a fucking problem. It is a fucking problem.
House Judiciary Committee pointed out last August, under the Biden-Harris regime, of more than 250 illegal aliens on the terrorist watch list that were encountered by Border Patrol at the southwest border during fiscal years 2021 and 2023, DHS has released into American communities at least 99, with at least 34 others in DHS custody. That is, people who are on the terrorist watch list, but not yet removed from the United States. Good job. What'd you say? Between fiscal years 2021 and 2023, Border Patrol at the southwest border encountered aliens on the terrorist watch list from 36 different countries, including places with an active terrorist presence: Afghanistan, Iraq, Lebanon, Kyrgyzstan, Mauritania, Pakistan, Somalia, Syria, Tajikistan, Turkey, Uzbekistan, and Yemen. But don't worry, we're deporting more than ever before.
Doesn't this sound like what was happening in the summer or even in the spring of 2001? And I remember around June-ish, the news in 2001 was, talking about Osama bin Laden, and that they were worried about, some chatter. All right? I think it was June of 2001 when in the news. And then all of a sudden, September 11th happens. There was a stand down that happened in my country to allow for 9/11 to happen. It was done on purpose. The same thing's happening again. Same damn thing.
So far during fiscal year 2024, Border Patrol has encountered tens of thousands of illegal aliens nationwide by countries that could present national security risks, including 2,134 Afghan nationals, 33,347 Chinese nationals, 541 Iranian nationals.
Now let's think about that. Why do we need 33,000 illegal aliens from China? That doesn't sound too safe. Or 541 illegal aliens from Iran. 520 Syrian nationals? Really? Really? I mean, come on.
520 Syrian nationals and 3,104 Uzbek nationals. Wow. This FBI needs to be groomed.
Yep.
Enough already. Imagine if it had applied the resources and it applied against Donald Trump.
FBI needs to be tarred and feathered. And, I'm going to parlay into his statement. They spent so much time demonizing Trump, investigating Trump, hiding the Hunter laptop, and crackhead Hunter Biden, demonizing constitutional Republicans that wanted to have a safe educational process for their kids. No, they'll demonize them. They'll spend their efforts going after Republican mothers. But they'll let in 33,000 Chinese illegally. Yeah, that's going to work real well. And then what if something is sneaking over the border that's biological or chemical? What if? I'll tell you, we are being dismantled from within. Now, not everybody at the FBI is wrong. Not everybody at the CIA, but I'll tell you, the ones that are running the organization, they hate America. And they position themselves to benefit. They put money in companies, or they're part of these ex-FBI types and CIA types are on boards that are part of the military-industrial complex, and they're making money on it. So they fail Americans, but they make money on the back end.
Over these years, investigating him, harassing him, hunting him, giving support to a rogue prosecutor and so forth. Imagine if those resources had been
Just
applied.
imagine you have the FBI going around in the panty drawer for Milana, but they're letting in 33,000 illegal Chinese. Good going.
To fighting terrorism. Imagine if the funds and resources that have been used against pro-life protesters were parents raising concerns at their school boards, or January 6 nonviolent protesters, which was the #1 priority of the Biden administration, along with white supremacy. Imagine if resources had been applied to that. And the DEI focus of the FBI, the intelligence agencies, the Department of Justice, the DHS, are soft. Counterterrorism? More like counter-Americanism.
Yep.
We need tough, hard-nailed, experienced men and women who know who the enemy is and who will do something about it. Like when I used to serve at the Department of Justice under Reagan, and Onice, and Caspar Weinberg at the Department of Defense, and Bill Casey at the CIA. And we didn't even have a Department of Homeland Security. What a ironic joke. Our government needs to focus on protecting us from an enemy. And it needs to understand that there is a war going on. A war against us. Islamic terrorism.
Hi, Governor Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News.
There's a war against us, and and we're being attacked. The American people are being attacked by the national security state. It's that simple. Before I go to the next video, please support my work. These wonderful videos that I do for free. Please get the supplements that help to improve your health. Follow what I do, all right? I'm explaining the things that I take every day to improve my health, my immune system, my endocrine system, slow down the aging process, have more vitality. You follow my lead, you're gonna get healthy. So let's talk about the stacking of D3 and vitamin K2. D3 helps to absorb calcium. It's a gene expression cofactor, so it's going to help the cells to express genes. It also helps cells to go into apoptosis if they're infected. This is part of the reason why D3 is so important during, the crisis of 2020, and even the upsurge right now that we're in with the current season. K2, MK7, is a vitamin that you should be taking. This will help with your bones and your cardiovascular health. When you stack them together, they work really well to help with your bones and your joints, reduce osteoporosis, but also to help with cardiovascular health. So please stack them together. Get the vitamin D3 and the vitamin K2 from my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take them together, they work really well. Another great supplement that I have to help with your cardiovascular health is omega-3. Omega-3 will help to lower LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. It'll also help to reduce the stickiness of red blood cells. So you're reducing the chances of clots. So please take omega-3 every day. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This is synergistic with D3 and K2. So take them together if you would like this synergistic aspect to it. Another great supplement that I have that I've added to my stack is nattokinase. Nattokinase helps to break up clots, so it's fibrinolytic, but it also helps to lower LDL levels and increase your HDL levels, so it's going to improve your total cholesterol. This is synergistic with omega-3, K2, and D3. So if you want to improve your cardiovascular system, reduce the plaque formation, take nattokinase, take omega-3, D3, and K2. Another great supplement that I have, as we get older, our pancreases don't function as well. In addition, if you work out a lot, you need some supplements to help to reduce the load on the pancreas, okay? Especially if you're into triathlons, or you work out pretty with high intensity, or you're doing marathons and stuff like that. So you have two groups. You have a athlete, and you have people that are getting older, 40 plus. The ones that are 40 plus, your pancreas isn't working as well. All right? Everybody's pancreas starts to decline with age. Right? The question is the level of decline. Your pancreas creates enzymes to help to break up carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. So if you take my digestive enzyme complex, you're reducing the load on your pancreas to help to dissolve, to help to break up carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. That means that you can get the nutrients out of the foods that you eat, right? You're absorbing those nutrients better, and you're reducing the load on your pancreas. That's important, right? If you are an athlete, take the digestive enzyme complex with fueling your body either pre-workout or post-workout, and what that will do will break up your fuel source, right? It'll break up that carbohydrate, lipids, and profiles and help you refuel your body quicker, all right? So this is for athletes, but also people that are getting older, 40 plus, where they need to reduce the load on their pancreas, okay? So please, take my advice on this. Trust me, go to the store and get the digestive enzyme complex, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This is a very high quality product, and to improve the health of your pancreas. Because guess what? A bad pancreas, you don't know about it until it's too late, and then you die. It's really that simple, all right? So with gut health, I have two supplements that you can take. I have a powdered form for a probiotic, and also a veggie cap version. They're both very high quality, and the reason why you want to take a probiotic every day is to have the proper gut biome, so you have you're able to break up the food that you're eating, right? Absorb those nutrients, and with a good gut biome, you're reducing inflammation in the gut. A lot of people have gut inflammation. Now, when people have chronic gut inflammation, the mucosal lining of the gut is weakened. That means you get sick more often, and you don't absorb and break up your food as well. So you're not absorbing nutrients as well. So you have less absorption, and you can get sicker, and because your gut is chronically inflamed, your immune system goes down. And with a weaker lining within your gut, mucosal lining that's thinner, that means your barrier is weaker, and so pathogens can get into your system more. You have your mucosal lining also has an antibody in there. It's IgA. All right, but if you have a chronically inflamed gut with a weakened mucosal lining and a poor gut biome, what will happen is that the composition of your IgAs go down, and you get sicker, and you get leaky gut syndrome, and that can be very problematic. So by taking a probiotic, you're improving your gut, bringing down inflammation, improving your metabolism, being able to absorb better. You're improving the performance of your liver, because your gut and your liver are connected through the portal vein. And you're also improving your mental acuity and your mood. People sometimes get depressed when they have a poor gut biome. Sometimes the memory issues with a poor gut biome. So there's a communication between the gut and the brain, gut and the liver. Your body will perform better with a good gut biome, and your skin will improve, your hair will improve, your nails will improve. You can see certain types of manifestations of a poor gut health in your skin. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the probiotic either in the VeggieCap form or in the powdered form. I take the powdered form and mix it with a soft food like hummus, but you can mix it with yogurt too. And lastly, before we go to the next video, detoxify your body. You can detox every day as a maintenance, or just detox once or twice a year. We're at the beginning of a new year, 2025. It's time to get healthy. All right? One great way to do it is to detoxify your body. Make sure you filter your water. I use zero water. Eat better foods, less processed foods, and detoxify your body. And you can do that with zeolite. Zeolite will bind to heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. And when it binds, it'll allow you to urinate out those toxins in 6 to 8 hours, okay? Take just a couple small drops underneath your tongue. Drink filtered water. Do that every day. You can do that all year round. Some people prefer to do a detox once or twice a year. That way, for the ones that do that, take about 4 or 5 drops underneath your tongue, small drops. Drink the filtered water, do that every day until the bottle's done, and do that once or twice a year. It's up to you. It is better though if you just do it every day, all right? Take a couple drops underneath your tongue, drink the filtered water, and do that every day. So please go to my store, take the zeolite, get the heavy metals, toxins, chemicals, and even the forever chemicals. Zeolite will bind to forever chemicals. But the key is stop the ingestion of the toxins, right? That means filtering your water, and that means eating better foods. Reduce or eliminate processed foods in your diet. Okay. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. For the ones that are watching on YouTube with live, I have X spaces up If you want to do a call-in, you can just raise your hand and request the mic or whatever, and I will, you know, allow you to ask your question, or you can just give me your opinion on what I'm covering. All right, so now, that was Levin, Hansen. All right, let's switch to plastic-eating worms, which could end pollution. This is by the BBC. Unfortunately, it doesn't have. Wait, are they gonna talk?
Experiment,
Okay.
we put 3.6 grams of styrofoam for 100 to 150 insects to degrade. And overnight, when we came in the morning, everybody was excited because we found out that it started boring on the styrofoam. What excites me most about this research, we found that the insect had a higher or elevated level of bacteria that is associated with degrading plastic. We are going to identify further what is really that attracts it to this kind of plastic. It's yet to be established which other kinds of plastic it can feed on. So we had to first keep the colony running to a certain level for us to do our work, because also we were a bit scared. What if we feed them on plastic and they die? But actually they didn't die. It's a lot also of expense and time investment.
These insects, as much as they're small, they play a very major role in the environment. The potential ecological risk at a large scale, one is invasive species. Then, once these insects are taken in plastics, there are so many byproducts. So we don't know how to change their genes.
At this level of our research, we are not yet to explore use of mealworm in the environment or landfills for plastic degradation.
This can't be a solution to the plastics crisis, and it should not give a leeway for plastics producing industries to continue producing.
If this research is taken further, it can help to alleviate some of this problem of the plastic, but more work needs to be done for us to get such product.
It's very important to be able to find a solution to break down the microplastic pollution that is going on in our environment. We're seeing it in the oceans, when they do the ocean races, yacht races. Sometimes those yacht races are like every 2 years or every third year. And they do samplings as they're traveling around the world, and they're noticing that there's a lot of microplastic pollution in all of the seas that they're traveling through, okay? And so some of this is like this is not just coastal type problem, this is way into the deep ocean. So microplastics is definitely in the water, in the ocean system, in the rivers, in the lakes, in the bays, right? But it's also in the fish. There's microplastics in the actual tissue of the fish. And when you actually do histology slides of humans, of tissues, you can see microplastics. Microplastics are getting into our tissues, all right? And there's no real good way to get rid of them, all right? We can get rid of chemicals, right? But these microplastics are foreign bodies that they don't digest. You can't metabolize them, so they just kind of sit there. So it's a problem, right? So coming up with solutions to reduce the microplastic pollution would be great. Now, bacteria. Just imagine if there were bacterias that could be put on farmland that eats up the microplastics in the soil that helps crop growth, or landfills or stuff like this. Who knows? But it's probably going to be a big area of research, because microplastics is a major problem in pollution. Now, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not a problem. All right, so we definitely have a problem. Not only that, microplastics get into our system because of everything is wrapped in plastics. Your food's wrapped in plastic, you're in a container or whatever. There's a little bit of it that gets into the food, you eat it, and boom, it's in your system. Now, some of it you can pass through, some of it you can't. And when it does get into the tissues, it's not easy for it to get out of the tissues. Now, some of it gets into the interstitium of the tissue or the extracellular matrix. Some of it gets actually into the cells and create these kind of lipofuscin kind of garbage sections of the cell. And the cell, when you get enough of this in the cell, it's not going to work properly. So now the cells have to go through apoptosis. And then once they die, the microplastic gets into the extracellular matrix, and then it gets into another cell, and it's very hard to get rid of. So it's a problem. There's no real good solution right now for microplastic. All right. Let's go to Fox News, and it goes, how much do Americans trust the FBI?
Okay, so let's bring in former FBI special agent and Fox News contributor, Nicole Parker. Nicole, thank you so much for being here. There are big picture here. There are like leadership problems all over the place. Obviously, the city of New Orleans and its police department has some things to contend with, but I'd like to talk specifically about the FBI moving forward, especially with the new administration, because there is a lack of confidence in the way that the FBI conducts itself right now. What do you think needs to happen in order for Americans to feel safe with trusting the FBI again?
Right, so first of all, ASAC Alethea Duncan, I can tell you that countless current and former FBI agents have reached out to me, and I myself, along with them, are embarrassed and ashamed by her statement, her lack of competence in a very key moment, and this is why the FBI is not trusted, because they put out information like this. But going forward, I do agree that the FBI, their trust has been destroyed over the last several years. They do not have a good track record. The key is to put in solid leadership, get them in there, and to hold those accountable that have destroyed the trust of the American people. And there need to be tangible consequences for those that have been key in really betraying Americans' trust.
Hey, Nicole, it's Sapphire. I have a question for you. So the terrorist who ran his car through downtown Bourbon Street and killed and injured all of these people, the FBI said that he wasn't necessarily on their watch list, but obviously he became radicalized somewhere. Will they be doing a deep dive into his internet searches, and what kind of, how can we surveil people to know if they are having access to these? Because we need to be knowing if people are being radicalized here on our soil.
Absolutely, Nicole, very, very important to note. And again, going back to FBI's priorities, if you are saying that white supremacy is the #1 threat facing America, and in the meantime, we've got individuals conducting, ISIS terrorist attacks, it goes back to the FBI. The FBI needs to refocus on the proper priorities that Americans care about most. And individuals like this, yes, they can be very difficult to surveil. If you see something, say something. If you know something about someone, their behavior seems to be off. But yes, they will be doing a very deep dive. They will be going into all of the electronic devices, his digital footprint, interviewing friends, family, loved ones, colleagues, and really determining what the pathway to the radicalization and pathway to violence was.
Nicole, it's Joe Concha. Does the FBI have a recruitment problem now at this point? Because to your point earlier, trust in the FBI, according to polls that we're seeing, for instance, one CNN poll, has them at 41% approval. Let's put that in context. Just 10 years ago in 2014, they were at 60% approval. That is a precipitous drop. So what can the FBI do to recruit better people? Because it clearly...
They need to rehire Agent Mueller and reboot the X-Files.
right now, it seems to be a personnel problem in terms of quality of FBI agents that we're seeing. To your point, they said it wasn't an FBI, they said it wasn't a terror attack. When this first happened, hours afterwards, without an investigation truly being conducted in the proper way before they walked that back. So how do we fix this?
Solid question there. Those that are doing the real work on the ground are sick and tired of being scrutinized by the failures of those who really should have never been in a leadership role. The key is to raise the hiring standards again. They dropped them, in my opinion. Raise the hiring standards, raise the promotion standards, and admit to America, look, we've had some failures, but we have new leadership in place, and we are going to make the FBI.
I think she's saying NDEI.
Right again. It is so important to regain the trust of the American people, but even more importantly, Joe, to regain the trust of the FBI agents. I walked away because the FBI changed. It changed so drastically, I no longer recognize the agency I signed on for. They need to get back to the original mission, uphold the Constitution, protect the American people, stop going after your political opponents, and this DEI, it is dangerous and detrimental to the mission of the FBI. Americans, we have threat levels at an all-time high. We cannot afford to be focusing on anything other than protecting the American people.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole Parker. As always, we always
So we're going to go to congestion pricing in New York. But before I do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work by getting the supplements that I offer. Follow my advice, follow my protocol, improve your health, improve your immune system, slow down the aging process, and increase your vitality. A great way to do that is to take the vitamin B complex. Why? This helps with cellular metabolism. The first few B vitamins helps with the mitochondrial health. They focused on the electron transport chain, creating ATP. So taking vitamin B complex will help with having more ATP, more energy. The other B vitamins will help with having normal growth of your blood cells, all right, and your platelets, all right, to prevent certain types of red blood cell conditions. You need to take B vitamins, like, for example, macrocytic anemia. Macrocytic anemia can be prevented by taking the vitamin B complex. In addition, when you get older, you need to protect your neurons, all right? You need B12 to do that, all right? Really important. You have central nervous system neurons and you have peripheral system neurons, all right? When you get older, your neurons aren't as robust. So by doing some exercising, by activating those neurons, activating the connections with your muscles, stimulating, balancing, and stretching exercises, because they're all different types of neurons that do it. You have stretch neurons by the tendons, you have muscle contraction neurons, you have balancing neurons, you have, gray matter and white matter, right? So when you age, the connections start to degrade with your muscles and being able to balance. So you have to activate your cerebellum. The best way to do that is to do some balancing exercises. You don't have to get crazy with it, but doing some balancing exercises and doing some stretching exercises and doing a little bit of weight training. That's all activating your neurons. And then other stuff to help with neuroplasticity is to read and write and to talk to people in the real world. And through that, on a regular basis, you're going to improve the health of the neuron and improve the connections of the neuron. That you're improving the neuroplasticity, all right? And these sheaths that are on the neuron, either in the central nervous system or the peripheral nervous system, if you're taking vitamin B complex, what's going to happen is that those myelin sheaths are going to be healthier. And when they're healthier, then the neuron fires faster. When we age, the myelin sheath starts to degrade. So there's two things that are happening when we age. Well, multiple things are happening, but I'm just going to focus on two. The myelin sheath is starting to degrade, so the actual electrical current through the neuron is slowing down. In addition, the connections of the different neurons, the dendrite connections, they start to recede. So you have less neuroplasticity, you have less connection. So that means you're thinking slower, that means your memory starts to go down, your ability to balance goes down, your ability to move your muscles go down, and there's just an overall slow decay of the nervous system. But by activating it, by doing resistance training, by stretching, by balancing, and by training your mind on new subjects and improving your memory and talking to people and activating those neurons, you're going to keep those connections, those neural connections, because you're shooting those neurotransmitters and you're sending out signals that are telling the nervous system maintain and improve those connections. And taking supplements like vitamin B complex will help to protect that myelin sheath. And by protecting that myelin sheath, the peripheral and the central nervous system neuron is going to be healthier and be able to fire quicker. So please take my advice, all right? As we get older, we need to protect our neurons. Vitamin B complex is a great way to do it, and it's a dual purpose. It helps to boost up your energy levels, which is important for your neurons. You need lots of ATP. It's going to help with your red blood cells, and it's going to help with your neurons and just cellular metabolism. So please go to my store and get the vitamin B complex. All right. Another dual purpose product that I have is olive leaf extract, a very high quality supplement, a great way to tackle two things: your immune system and your cardiovascular system. Olive leaf extract helps to improve your immune system, and olive leaf extract helps to improve your cardiovascular system. How? It lowers inflammation. So by lowering inflammation, you're going to calm down your immune system, and it'll be more reactive when you need it. A lot of people, because of the diet or stress, they have very high cortisol levels. And so what that means is that it creates a response that actually is bringing down the immune system if you have chronic cortisol levels, because cortisol is an immunosuppressant. So people that have high stress get sicker, all right? Not only that, they have high blood glucose levels. So, and that harms your cardiovascular health. High glucose levels, high cortisol levels harms your cardiovascular health. So by calming down the immune system, by reducing inflammation, right, you're lowering the immunosuppressants of cortisol, the immunosuppressant capability of cortisol, because you're lowering your cortisol levels. So you're just calming down your immune system, all right, and you're improving it. So when you need it to fight cancers and to fight pathogens and whatnot, and just do its normal function, you can, because you've reduced inflammation. Another aspect of olive leaf extract that's really important is the cardiovascular health, all right? By bringing down inflammation, you're reducing the chances of further plaque buildup. Also, olive leaf extract brings down LDL levels and increases your HDL levels. That means you're improving your total cholesterol, you're increasing your good cholesterol, and you're reducing your bad cholesterol. And when you do that, you're reducing the chances of plaque formation, because you need LDL oxidized to create plaque. All right? Well, if you have less LDL, it can't oxidize. And if you bring down inflammation, you have less free radicals, so it doesn't oxidize. So this is the reason why olive leaf extract is so important to take. So please, go to my store, take the olive leaf extract. It's a dual purpose product. It's a high quality product. You're attacking two really important systems. You're improving your immune system and you're improving your cardiovascular system. All right. Okay. Next. History. All right, so we got, I want to go to the Cybertruck. What's going on with the Cybertruck? I want to see, Mrs. Fox.
And we're learning more about the New Year's Day explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck that happened right outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. You see the video there. That includes details on the suspect and his apparent motive. Christina Coleman has more.
Bill, federal authorities identified the man who blew up the Cybertruck as 37-year-old Matthew Livelsberger of Colorado Springs. They say he was not on the FBI's radar and did not have a criminal history. They say ultimately, this appears to be a tragic case of suicide involving a highly decorated combat veteran who was struggling with PTSD and other family issues or personal grievances. They believe he shot himself in the head while inside of the Cybertruck. Today on Fox and Friends, an Army Ranger who knew Livelsberger shared his thoughts on this tragic situation.
The guy was a great dude. He was he was a good shooter. He was a good communicator. Heartbreaking. I truly hope that, this is a wake-up call for service members to make sure that we're checking in with each other right now.
Even though authorities say Livelsberger blew up the Cybertruck in front of Trump's hotel in Las Vegas, they do not believe he had any animosity toward the president-elect based off of their investigation. They say they found notes on one of his cell phones that was found inside of the Cybertruck, giving some insight into his mind frame and a possible motive. During yesterday's press briefing, they read off some of his notes while updating the public on their investigation.
This was not a terrorist attack, it was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than to stun with fireworks and explosives?
7 people suffered minor injuries from the explosion. Authorities say this could have been much worse if the still-sided vehicle didn't absorb so much force from the blast. They also say this incident was not connected to the terrorist attack in New Orleans. Authorities are still trying to recover information from other devices that were found inside of the truck, including a second cell phone and a laptop as part of their ongoing investigation. Bill?
Christina Coleman, thank you.
Now, there are people that are investigating the video for the Cybertruck. Some of them are saying that the truck exploded before a headshot wound. So that means that something detonated. Now, did he detonate it or did someone else detonate? I don't know. That's the conspiracy theory that's out there right now on X. Who knows? I don't know. From the pictures, from the slow motion video that I saw, certain frames of the picture makes it look like he did not have a headshot wound. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. I mean, who knows? I don't believe the story. There's more to the story here. More to the story. I don't trust the FBI. I don't trust these investigations anymore. Okay, so now let's take a look at what other news is going on in the world. This is interesting. This is an interesting thing. So Nippon Steel, the Japanese steel company, wanted to buy U.S. steel. And the Biden administration blocked it, which I think was a good idea. Now, if we are going to move towards a war effort against China, we're going to need a lot of steel, especially for shipbuilding. Nippon Steel wanted to buy U.S. steel. There were shareholders that wanted the buyout. U.S. Steel needs some cash infusion for upgrading its facilities. So here's another aspect where, you know, we have a really important business, a really important corporation in the United States, our steel manufacturing, starting to dwindle on the vine. And that just capitalism wants to just spin it off into, you know, another country that owns it. Now, Nippon Steel said that they were going to maintain operations in the United States, and that, you know, they were guaranteeing certain provisions for the workforce. The union is trying to block it because they're worried that they're going to get laid off. I just personally think that U.S. Steel needs to stay in the United States because we need the steel for the shipbuilding. Not only that, we need it for car manufacturing and building, you know, buildings have steel in it. So we need a very strong steel industry. So let's play this video. This is by CBS Pittsburgh. It's a short video.
What's up?
Hi, Jera. We brought you here today to let you know that we made the
responsible threats that were made by the CEO. I mean, we just need to move forward.
McCall doesn't believe U.S. Steel will act.
An uneasy cloud hanging over the Mon Valley tonight. Steelworkers want to know what's going to happen to them now that President Biden has blocked Nippon Steel's bid to buy U.S. Steel. KDKA's Ricky Sayer went to Clairton to talk with the people this decision will impact the most. He joins us live now with that reaction. Good evening, Ricky.
Good evening. We're told it was quiet inside of the coke works behind me today, that on many steel workers' minds was something that their CEO said months ago. That being that if the deal with Nippon does not go through, that they would largely have to pivot away from the blast furnaces that make up the steel plants here in the Mon Valley, and that with that, many jobs could be lost. U.S. Steel maintenance technician Andrew Macy was optimistic the deal would be approved. Then came Friday morning.
I got a message on my phone that said that the deal was blocked, and I immediately stopped and I felt numb.
Now let's think about this for a second. Why didn't U.S. Steel invest in that region to make sure that they would continue production? See, there seems to be an orchestrated effort, partially in corporate America, a lot of it in government, where there's a takedown of the prowess of American industry. Because if you weaken American industry, there's less good paying jobs. When you have less good paying jobs, you're going to be more reliant on other countries, and it's easy to slowly move the country into socialism. Because these people that used to be paid high wages are now on the dole. And slowly what happens is there's more and more social programs, there's more and more indebtedness, eventually a collapse of the nation. There are people, literally, there are people in our government, in corporate America, in our society in the United States that hates America. They hate America, they want America to fail. And there are individuals within that group that can make a lot of money doing it.
Moment where he reflected on when U.S. Steel laid him off in 1986.
And I had that feeling come back to me of, like, what now?
What now? That's a feeling shared among steel workers we spoke with, local union VP Richard Tyke included.
Now I'm gonna have to answer the questions, and I'm answering the questions, what's next? All day long, what's next?
And Tyke says he doesn't have the answers.
And none of us have a crystal ball. People worry about losing their jobs.
United Steelworkers International President David McCall says President Biden made the right choice for their union members and national security.
Well, the irresponsible threats that were made by the CEO, I mean, we just need to move forward.
McCall doesn't believe U.S. Steel will actually close plants, as the company's CEO has warned.
So the future of the Mon Valley, I think, is good. We'll continue to make those good quality products that customers demand there. And a responsible management will continue to invest in those facilities.
Steelworkers told us it's been years since they've seen investment. It's part of why they were looking forward to Nippon ownership.
I think that they will litigate it, and they'll find that the facts are that it's the best thing that could happen to U.S. Steel is this acquisition by Nippon.
Macy says he's already planning to retire in the next year. Now he's just hoping the next generation doesn't have to face what he did.
So this is just, it's tough. It's just really tough at this point right now. But being a steel worker and steel worker strong, we'll bounce back. It'll come back.
I also spoke with another steel worker who hopes that President-elect Trump will reverse Biden's decision. He and other steel workers are sending a letter to Trump to ask him to do just that. Now, Trump said last month he is totally against the sale to Nippon and that he would block it once taken in office. Live in Clarendon, Ricky Sayer, KDK TV News.
All right, Ricky, thank you. And tonight, reaction is also rolling in from Pennsylvania's U.S. senators. Senator John Fetterman says, quote, "I'm always going to trust and follow the wisdom and the judgment of the union. My goal is their goal, to protect the union way of life and allow it to endure." Meanwhile, Senator Dave McCormick says he, quote, "will do everything he can with the Trump administration and leaders in both parties to protect this vital industry and related jobs in Pennsylvania."
All right, so I don't think that we should be selling our steel industry to the Japanese. I think it's that simple. I think it's stupid. But, you know, of course, there's going to be people that make tons of money on it, you know, if they can do the spin-off. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the news here. All right, CNN just released something called Polls Show Voters' Views on Election Denialism After 2024 Election. So let's play that. But before I do that, please help support my work by going to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the supplements that I offer. I have also ebooks, and I have lecture series on pulmonology and immunology. Great way to learn about those two subject matters. But these are supplements that I sell in my store that I take. It's part of my stack, all right? I take a lot of stuff, you know, and not everybody can afford to take everything I'm taking. But I'm telling you ways to stack them together to focus on a certain system for you. So a great way to improve your immune system is taking lignans. Lignans is a powder, and it's dual purpose, right? You mix it with soft foods like hummus or yogurt, or you can just mix it with filtered water, create a smoothie with it. But there's a little scooper. Take it every day. It helps to boost up your immune system and improves your endocrine system. This is for males and females. It's really important to take. I can't tell you how important, after going through the crisis of 2020, how important it is to boost up your immune system. All right? Now, some people are taking my advice and they're going to fare a lot better. But let's just say that you're not taking my advice and another hit happens. All right? Cases start to go up with a certain pathogen. Doesn't matter what. But if you have a weakened immune system, how are you going to fight it? If you have a weakened immune system, how are you going to fight cancer? So it behooves you to listen to me. But it's up to you. You know, this is a free country, and you can do what you want. But I'm giving you information on how to improve your health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take the lignin powder that I have here. Get a scooper with it. Take it every day. It's going to help boost up your immune system and help with your endocrine system. But if you don't listen, don't be surprised if something bad happens. NAD+. This is part of my stack to increase my energy levels. NAD+ helps to increase the energy levels, but also it helps to repair the DNA damage that your cells start to accumulate, especially when you get older. Now, you have two types of DNA. You have mitochondrial DNA, and you have DNA in the nucleus of the cell. all right? But damage can happen in either one. And NAD plus will help to repair that DNA damage. So this is going to improve the health of the cell and the health of the mitochondria by repairing the DNA damage, all right? And as we get older, we accumulate DNA damage, trust me on that. And then NAD plus also helps to improve neural health. So again, this is really important, and it stacks well with vitamin B complex. As we get older, we need to take supplements and do certain types of exercises to improve our neurons. So take NAD plus, improve your neurons, boost up your energy levels, and help to repair the DNA damage in your cells. So go to my store and take the NAD plus. Really important part of my stack. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable CoQ10 that you can buy. It's a very high quality product, and ubiquinol will help with energy levels. It'll improve your energy levels, help to improve your mitochondrial health. It's an antioxidant, so it's going to be soaking up free radicals. So this is synergistic with NAC and C60, and ubiquinol helps to protect your neurons. Another supplement that are synergistic with vitamin B complex and NAD plus. So if you stack them together, you're really turbocharging the health of your neurons. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get ubiquinol. This is the most bioavailable CoQ10 that you can buy. Very high quality supplement. All right, so let's go to CNN and see what they have to say about these pollsters about election denialism.
Welcome to the ARC Venture Fund.
To date, to get very good venture. Tomorrow, Congress will meet in a joint session to certify the 2024 election. A once uneventful part of the presidential transition process became a day of infamy. The events of exactly 4 years ago tomorrow. Of course, that's when a violent mob infiltrated the Capitol as President Trump protested his loss in a free and fair election. It was a moment that many on both sides of the aisle thought would end Trump's political power for good. Here we are, 4 years later, preparing to see the former president and president-elect take the final step in the election process and secure his second term. So how exactly did we get here? Well, CNN senior data reporter Harry Anton has crunched numbers and is here to explain. So, Harry, a lot has changed in 4 years, especially when it comes to Trump and the GOP. Walk us through it.
Yeah, all right. So, remember, after January 6th, what do we have? We had the impeachment of Donald Trump, and then, of course, we had the trial in the United States Senate. I want you to take a look at Republicans who voted to impeach or convict Trump in his second impeachment or impeachment trial. You go back to January, February 2021, what was it? It was 17. That's a significant chunk of folks, right, Manu? That wasn't most of the GOP didn't, but 17 is a pretty big number here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you go to January of 2025. How many of those folks are still in the United States Congress? It's just 5. It's just 5. Pretty much the ones who did were all run out of town. There are just 2 House members, 3 Senate members who remain. The bottom line is this, and we'll say it over and over and over again. This is Donald Trump's Republican Party. That's why he could pick up the phone, make those calls to ensure that Mike Johnson held on to his speakership. But it's not just within the Republican Party. It's nationally among the general populace as well. So take a look at Donald Trump's net favorable rating. Take a look here. Trump's net favorability rating. You go back to January 2021. Donald Trump was way underwater, minus 20 points. That's your favorable minus your unfavorable. Look, he's still a little bit underwater, but he's now at minus 1 point. He's considerably more popular. So folks who were writing off Donald Trump's political career, writing his political obituary, he rose up from the grave. He almost looks like one of those WWE characters, right?
But another variable that allowed for this more favorability for Trump in relative terms is the lawfare backfired. All that lawfare that took place throughout the last 4 years has backfired. And it's made him stronger.
Goes up. And that is what Donald Trump has did. He's right now broke even. He's about as popular with the American public, Manu, than he has ever been.
Wow. And he's been talking about on the first day when he comes into office, pardoning all these January 6th prisoners. How does that fare with the American public's view?
Yeah, how does that fare? Well, I will tell you, it ain't popular. It ain't popular. Donald Trump may be more popular than he's ever been, but the idea of him pardoning these January 6th protesters is simply put not a popular proposition. You look overall, it's 33%. It's 33%. Look at the opposition. 59% of the American public, you can barely get 59% of the American public to agree on anything, but they do agree on opposing Trump pardoning the January 6th protesters. Even among the Republican Party, look at this number. Yes, it's 2/3 who support it at 67%, but you know, Donald Trump's favor rating with the Republican Party is like 85, 90%.
That's low for Trump.
This is low for Trump. You have this 21% who are opposed to it. That is a pretty significant chunk of folks who are opposed to it. So yes, Republicans like Donald Trump, but they aren't necessarily in love with the idea of pardoning, certainly not overall.
I wouldn't be surprised that that 21% are aligned with the national security state. And guess what? There are machines that count ballots in foreign countries that are designed to flip elections. Oh yeah. And the CIA was all over that.
Be asking yourself, okay, how the heck then did Donald Trump win that election back in November, right? Given that you see this support and you see this opposition among the American public, and most Americans, I will note in our CNN poll, said that they expected that Trump was going to try and pardon. How did it work then? Well, take a look at January 6th memories. Take a look here. All right. January 6th is the biggest memory of Trump's first term. Look at this.
Wow.
It's just 5.
That is something.
It's just 5%. I mean, most folks simply put were willing to dismiss it without much of an issue. And
So that basically means that when you look at it in all the things that Trump has done in his first term, it's a nothing burger. I'm telling you, Trump is getting stronger by them demonizing him because of he's just born in chaos.
among Republicans, what do we see? It was just 2%. So even though you had that significant chunk of Republicans who said we oppose it, even though the vast majority of Americans opposed it, the bottom line, when it came to November, even when it comes now, most Americans simply put money are not thinking about it.
And of course, everything that happened on January 6, 2021 was because of Trump's sowing doubts over a free and fair election. How is that in line with the way American public views what happened in the 2020 elections?
Yeah, I mean, this to me, remember, he brought along Republicans, and this is just such a fascinating trend line. The 2020 votes were cast or counted accurately. You go back to 2021, this is among Republicans, it was 31%. You look just before this election, October of 2024, it was 32%, basically the same number. Then all of a sudden, December of 2024, it jumps up to 44%. Well, what the heck happened? Well, what happened was Donald Trump won the November 2024 election. All of a sudden, folks were far more likely to believe, hey, wait a minute, those votes were cast and counted accurately. But here, I think, is the biggest thing, the biggest sort of takeaway, which was election votes cast or counted accurately. The 2020 election, remember, we mentioned Republicans at 44%. Democrats were at 89% of the 2020 election. Not a big surprise, Joe Biden won that. But look at the 2024 election. Look at Republicans. 94% of Republicans believe that the 2024 votes were cast and counted accurately. Democrats saw a drop-off from 89 to 73. But again, Democrats far more likely to believe that even if their side lost, that the results were counted, the results were accurately reflective of the people's will, than Republicans were on it.
All right, the wizard Harry Anton breaking it all down. Thank you. Let's talk about a little bit more at this panel. Olivia, you were at the Capitol on January 6th. I was also in the Capitol on January 6th. And I was talking to a lot of Republicans at the time. They thought Trump was done. They did not think he was going to come back at all. They were disgusted about what happened. They were disgusted.
Don't you think that what's going on in the world, and we're marching right to World War III, don't you think that Trump, for whatever reason, even with his flaws, because he has many, he is somehow blessed? He's blessed with wealth, he's blessed with a large family, and he's blessed with going through a political storm that nobody nobody would have been able to survive. The guy has the Midas touch. And don't you think that maybe the country will benefit by aligning with some of his policies for the next 4 years? It's only 4 years. Don't worry about it, all right? The country has been going down the toilet for the last 4 years. It's time to reverse course. Trump there's a blessing there. He's been blessed. Now why? I don't know. Or no one can know for sure why. Or if it's even justifiable. But he is blessed. No political person would have been able to survive the onslaught that has happened. So, someone is looking out for him. All right. I'm tired of seeing it. Let's see something else here. Steel workers. Nice New Orleans. Okay, here's Fox News, One Nation. Former National Security Advisor warns ISIS is on the rise. All right, before we do that, because ISIS is coming to attack America, you need to build up some muscle. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Myotrol. Myotrol helps to build muscle and to maintain muscle mass. All right? It has flavonoids, lignins, and polyphenols to help do that. All right? So you do a little bit of resistance training and you build up some muscle. All right? It also helps to improve your mitochondrial health and you'll have more ATP to help maintain that muscle, because muscles use up a lot of mitochondria. All right. When we get older, we have atrophy, muscle atrophy, and you need to maintain the muscle you have and to get more muscle. So please go to my store, get the Myotrol, build up the muscle, do some resistance training, and if you're an athlete, take Myotrol to help build and build up your performance and build up your strength. This is synergistic with some other things that I have in the store, such as Gladiator Barley and the Boomer Boost. All right, and I'll be talking about that shortly. But go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, and get $5 off. Take the Myotrol, build muscle, maintain muscle mass, improve your mitochondrial health. Because you know what? ISIS is around the corner, and we're going to have another 9/11. Vitamin C with magnesium, a great way to boost up your immune system. Take this every day. If you're not feeling well because of the cold season, take a double dose. Take vitamin C and magnesium. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Vitamin C is also really important for your skin. And if you get my skincare box that has collagen, vitamin C, and the structural nanosilver gel, you can improve your skin. All right, so let's play Fox about ISIS.
And how this staff might be different from the last one. So security advisor to Donald Trump, Robert O'Brien. Robert, great to see you. Your thoughts about the public clashes so far and how this staff might be different from the last one.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Brian. Look, I kind of look at this with an amused grin because, look, the person who's going to make the final decision on all these issues is Donald J. Trump, the 45th and 47th President of the United States. And what President Trump will do is he'll bring all these voices into the Oval Office. And when I was National Security Advisor, I'm convinced Mike Waltz will do the same thing. If there's a divergence in the cabinet, you brought one person to argue one side, one person to argue the other. President Trump would listen to it. He'd ask really insightful questions. Use the clash of these ideas to come up with the best solution, and then he'd make a decision. And once he made that decision, we then went out and made sure it was implemented. So, look, I think it's a healthy debate. These guys all like President Trump, they all support America First, and you're gonna get great results out of this debate.
Yeah, it seems the difference is, if I read McMaster's book, and many people say it's 100% accurate, is that, Kelly, Mattis, and Tillerson didn't really like the president. And they were kind of undermining him, doing their own thing. Not saying they're not great at what they did, but they weren't fully understanding who got elected.
Yeah, they weren't understanding, Brian, who got elected, but they also didn't agree with President Trump's policies. And President Trump is all about America First and peace or strength and taking care of Americans. I mean, I look at this trip that Biden just took to Angola, and he gave $600 million to a very rich African country where the leaders are Marxists and they're all billionaires. And he gave $600 million of American taxpayer money to support a Chinese railroad. So we've got teachers in Tennessee taking second jobs at night, working in an Amazon fulfillment house to pay their bills, and their tax dollars are being sent to Angola. And President Trump is not going to do that. That was his view. He wasn't a globalist. He was an American First guy, and he's now got a whole cabinet of people who believe the same way.
Robert, you got into government, and we had the whole 9/11 mindset. Look out for the next terror attack around the block. Did a really good job on that. It's underappreciated. We got away from that mindset over the last 4 years. Yeah. And do you think that played into what we witnessed in New Orleans and what we're worried about now, and what the FBI director is saying he sees nothing but flashing red lights domestically in our country?
Yeah, so Brian, you're 100% right. When President Trump took office the first time, keep in mind, we were about to have a war in North Korea, but ISIS was running wild all over the Middle East. They controlled a caliphate the size of the United Kingdom that spread across Iraq and Syria. And the first thing President Trump said is, we're going to take care of the caliphate. And we finally took the caliphate down. But Baghdadi, their leader, got away, and we hunted him down, we tracked him down, and then we sent our great special operators and our Belgian Malinois dog, Conan, and we got Baghdadi, and we took ISIS down. Now it's like, deja vu all over again. We're taking office again, and ISIS is on the rise. We had a major terrorist attack in America. And look, this guy was radicalized, homegrown. But how many of these terrorists came over the border, Brian? How many gotaways include ISIS and Hezbollah and Al Qaeda members that are swimming in this big American stream right now that are going to commit attacks in the future? So I'm looking forward to Kash Patel and Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem and our great law enforcement, John Radcliffe and the CIA, figuring out who these people are, rounding them up, putting them in jail and deporting them, and making America safe again.
Yeah, if you're going to cut a tape that talks about, I was going to kill my family, but instead I want to do a mass killing in New Orleans, hopefully there'll be a way for us to track and stop that when Donald Trump takes over. Robert O'Brien, thanks so much.
Yeah, Brian, the FBI was spending time going after Catholics going to Latin Mass and parents talking to giving feedback in the PTA meetings and J6 protesters. And then they took their eye off the ball on crime, but on terrorism, they need to get back to tracking down these terrorists and arresting them and taking them out of circulation right away. That's what President Trump's going to bring in just two short weeks.
I hear you. And if you talk to the FBI agents who are actually in the field, they just want the ability to go back and do what they were trained to do once again, and that's going to happen. Robert O'Brien, always great. Thank you, sir.
I'm going to Brian kill me. I want you to do me a favor.
The next supplement set that I'm going to talk about is really important. If you really want to improve your health going forward in 2025, just listen very carefully, all right? A great way to fuel your body with all the nutrients you need, to lose weight, build muscle, improve energy, improve brain function, improve heart health, is to do the following, all right? Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. This is a powder, all right? You take a big scoop of it each day, mix it with a soft food like hummus, that's how I do it, or yogurt, or some people mix it with milk. You can create a smoothie or just use filtered water. But take it once a day. You're going to get the nutrients you need. There's a huge profile for nutrients that you get. You get 68 nutrients here, right? And what will happen is your energy levels are going to go up, your ATP is going to go up, the health of your mitochondria is going to go up. You're going to have better brain function. You're also going to improve your heart health. All right? And if you couple this with the barley that I'm going to be talking about, you're going to also be able to control your A1C and your blood glucose levels. So it's really important to take, all right? And it's a great way to start getting healthy for 2025, all right? So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. Now again, make sure you use discount 5, all caps, and the number 5 to get $5 off, all right? But this is a great way to start the new year and improve your muscles, improve your heart, improve your brain function, increase energy, control your blood glucose levels. Now, there are 2 different barleys that I have. One barley is the Gladiator barley and the other is the heirloom barley. So what's the big difference? Well, the heirloom barley is more focused on the detoxification, but it'll bring down inflammation and it'll help to soak up free radicals using superoxide dismutase, okay? You can take this separately. It's a protein, right? And you can mix it, again, the same way as the Boomer Boost. But if you take them together, you'll be able to really supercharge your health and improve your blood glucose levels, all right? So this is the heirloom barley is kind of a high protein dense supplement because it's heirloom, right? So if you take barley, regular barley from the store, it's not as energy dense. It's nutritionally dense. But the heirloom barley and the Gladiator barley, it is neutral. It is, there's a, the nutritional value for each scoop is pretty high, all right? So take the heirloom barley. If you want to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation and soak up free radicals, and you can get healthy by just taking the heirloom barley. And if you take this as a meal once a day, you're going to start seeing that you're losing weight and you're improving your health. But it works much better when you couple it with the Boomer Boost. Now, the Gladiator barley is more focused on building strength, reducing inflammation and soaking up those free radicals with the superoxide dismutase. So the common theme between heirloom barley and Gladiator barley is it brings down inflammation and soaks up free radicals. The difference is Gladiator barley is to build up muscle. The heirloom barley is more for detoxification, okay? But again, it works better if you couple it with the Boomer Boost. Again, use discount 5, all caps, and number 5 to get $5 off. Now, when you couple the barley, either Gladiator or heirloom, with the Boomer Boost, you're going to be able to help control your blood glucose levels. And this is a meal. So you just mix it with like hummus or soft food like yogurt or whatever, or mix it in a smoothie, and you use it as a meal for your breakfast or lunch, right? And you'll notice that you're losing weight and you're getting in shape. Now, Gladiator barley and heirloom barley work really well with myotrol. And the myotrol helps to build up muscle. So if you're older and you're atrophying, right, and you want to build up muscle, a great way to do it is to take the Boomer Boost to get the nutrients you need, to take the Gladiator barley, do the resistance training, and also take the myotrol. It's a great way to build up muscle. If you're an athlete and you need to fuel your body, you know what? You should be fueling your body not with all that whey protein that you take, which is garbage. What you really need to do is take the Boomer Boost, because you're getting the essential nutrients that you need, and take the Gladiator barley, and then do that as your pre-meal workout. All right, and what you'll notice is your gains are going to be better. So this is a great way, either if you're older and you're trying to get healthy, or if you're an athlete and you're looking for that extra push. All right. So a great way to get an additional discount is to buy the longevity boost box that I have on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. So you get in the longevity boost box, you get the Boomer Boost and your choice of either Gladiator barley or heirloom barley. And if you buy that longevity boost box, it's cheaper than buying them separately. And in addition, you can use the discount 5 on top of the built-in discount in the longevity box. So it's a great way to save money. It's 2025. I gave you a lot of ways to start getting healthy. Improve your immune system, build up muscle, improve your endocrine system, improve your brain health. Just get healthy. Start. But it takes, if you haven't done it, it takes a couple easy, easy small steps, and you'll get more energy, and hopefully the ball will be rolling for you, and you get more healthy, and you're more focused, and you take larger steps, right? But you can do it. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the supplements that I offer, such as the Boomer Boost, which is a great way as a meal to get the nutrients you need, and as a pre-workout if you're into athletics too. The Gladiator barley, build up strength, reduce inflammation and soak up free radicals, or the heirloom barley to detoxify your body, to reduce inflammation and soak up free radicals. So I gave you lots of ways to improve your health. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. That's the end of my transmission. Thank you for the ones that have been watching the live stream on YouTube, and for the ones that have been listening on X. I greatly appreciate it. Don't be shy. This is supposed to be interactive, so in another episode, if you'd like to ask a question or give me your take on events that I'm covering, please do just request the mic and I will pass it on to you. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.